Forspoken being delayed on PlayStation, and our God of War Ragnarok predictions on PlayStation. We'll have all this and more because this is PS I Love You XOXO. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Greg. That's Blessing. That's Janet. And you can get this show on patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames. There you can watch us record it live, get it ad-free, and get the weekly post show. If you have no bucks to toss our way, support us on the Epic Game Store with Fortnite, Rocket League, or something else with the creator code KindaFunny. If you get PS I Love You and you would like it ad-free and you want all the different post show and all that stuff, if that just isn't your jam for some reason, youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Fargo Brady, Delaney Twinning, James Hastings, Casey Andrew, Gordon McGuire, Al Tribesman the Predator. Today, we're brought to you by Chime and Shopify, but let's start with a PSN message from you. Well, first off, though, Blessing and Janet, welcome back.
Hi. Good to be back, even though my voice is like already cracking.
Janet, you nearly died with COVID, and then Blessing, you were all tuckered out and took the first half of the week off.
Yes, and I looked ahead a little bit. I think I might be off this show for like the next 2 weeks, possibly, just due to some scheduling stuff.
You got. I know the one thing we mentioned.
I'm out of town next week for a thing, and then the week after there's another thing.
Oh, right.
That like I don't know how long that's gonna go, but I've
the other thing you've announced, didn't you?
I don't know if I've announced when that thing is happening.
Okay, so things are happening for Blessing.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
But that's gonna be contingent on like how well or bad I do on that particular thing. If I'm gonna be here on Thursday or not.
Oh, okay.
I can throw it though. I can just.
I'd love that if you could just tank it on Wednesday. That would really help me and Janet out for the following Thursday. Janet, how are you? You had COVID.
I did have COVID. I'm better now. I'm at like 95%. Like, don't have most symptoms. I still do have a little bit of a sore throat and a cough. So if I sound different, that's why. But everything else is good. Like my whole house got hit. I have lived with 5 people total. It's me, Isaiah, my brother, his now wife, and my dad. Everyone got sick. Everyone was out. The only one who didn't get sick was Bruce. Which apparently, like when COVID first dropped, everyone's like, oh, pets can't get sick, don't worry. And then I looked it up and they're like, actually, your pet can get sick. They probably won't, but like, don't have contact with them. So I had to just abandon my cat in the living room for like days. And it was very sad because she would like whine and I couldn't hang out with her and it sucked. But yeah, fortunately, we got hit pretty hard for the first few days. But then after that, we kind of came out of it in more of like a normal cold fashion.
How was the COVID bonding? Like, was there any like, oh, we're all in this together. Let's sing Kumbaya together. Or?
It was cool to have people to talk to about it. Like I had other people like in California is getting hit really hard. So I knew other people like that had gotten COVID and talked about how like lonely it can be and stuff. So Isaiah had COVID along with me. So we were like quarantined to the room together. We still kind of had our own little pockets, even though I don't think it really mattered because we probably all had the same strain, but just to try to like figure stuff out. Like, we kind of all kept to ourselves. So that part sucked. But Isaiah being there was cool, but we were all like honestly just asleep most of the time. And then sometimes we'd sleep off of each other's schedule. So sometimes I'd be awake and he'd be asleep for like 3 hours, and then I'd go to sleep and he'd be awake. So the first few days was just a lot of sleeping and a lot of forcing yourself to eat when you don't want to eat. It felt a lot like that meme that people do from Harry Potter of like, when you have to drink it. It was like that, but for like 4 days. Like I drank a cup of bone broth. That shit didn't taste good. Yeah. Shout out to the recommendation because I guess it's probably good for you. But I was like, this is super gross. Not interested in this at all. But yeah, I'm doing better now. And I was able to do some gaming toward the back end of the week when I was pretty much good, but just still taking off to try to get more rest in. But yeah.
On the Kinda Funny review scale, the 5-point scale, what would you give COVID?
Oh, definitely. We can't go lower than 1, right? Definitely a 1. Definitely a 1.
Terrible.
And I feel kind of like, shout out to all y'all who are like hitting us up and being like, oh, I hope your family's good. You know, I hope the cases are mild and stuff. Like, you know, my dad's much older. He's in his 60s. So I was really worried when he got it. But he had the most mild symptoms of all of us. So he like did pretty well. And everyone's negative now.
Do you think your dad had milder symptoms because he just got a different kind of version of it, or he's not a whiner like your generation?
I think he's just built different.
Jesus.
Like
Yeah.
the fact that literally, and I don't know, like, you know, we still don't know a lot about how COVID works and everything, unfortunately, but he wasn't testing positive on like the tests the government gives you for free, the ones you can get at like Walgreens, CVS. Like he was negative on those for a while. So we actually sent him away to a hotel for a few days to try to hope that like, oh, he doesn't have it. But then we made him take the good test, or the PCR test that you have to like pay for and shit. And then he was finally positive on that. But before that test came up, and he still didn't have symptoms for like 2 days until after that. Before that came up, he thought he didn't have it at all. He was testing negative. Literally the day we were all in bed, he ran like 5 miles that day. He was like, I feel great. Everything's going good. So I think honestly, and this is not how science works, and like you cannot like, you know, fitness your way out of viruses and stuff. However, I think the fact that this man's out here running literally hundreds of miles in any given month for no reason, not training for it. Like, I think he just has a resilience that unfortunately a lot of people can't have. But I'm very like grateful that just in general, my dad has almost no health issues as someone that is like a senior citizen according to AMC theaters. I think he still has to pay full for a bus, but he does get the senior discount at AMC, which we found out when we went to see Top Gun for Father's Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, did you know? I felt like I was kind of like maybe a dick about it, but my dad's kind of an asshole, so it's fine. I was like, did you know, Dad, when we got your ticket, you're a senior citizen according to AMC theater? But yeah.
You know what's messed up? Greg is in our generation.
Yeah.
Anybody find that fucked up?
Like,
No,
Greg,
he's
also,
not though.
Hold on though.
Like he had one
really,
child, all of a sudden Greg grew 20 years somehow.
I really quickly though need to shout out how I'm out here trying to live my life, trying to recover from this illness. And I feel like, Greg, you fought me so many times on the internet, and we were just fighting all the time for no reason. I don't know what I did to you. I'm just here. I'm living my life.
That's probably working with Greg Miller.
See, again, this goes back to it. I think
it's
the COVID just made you even more sensitive, where I wasn't really giving you the business. I was just doing my normal Greg Miller stuff to you. You know what I mean? Like, I know you, Janet, better than you know yourself. You didn't want me coming over and be like, oh, are you okay? I'm going to send some flowers or a blanket. You wanted the shots on the Twitter. You wanted somebody to treat you normally. Weren't you sick of everybody showing up in the hazmat suits to your house?
I just got to say that, you know, Isaiah's friend sent us some wings, you know, in the mail.
Yeah.
I was checking my line. My line was dry from KindaFunny. I'm just going to throw that out there. Y'all got my address.
I said a get well
You're
soon.
the wing guy.
I am the wing guy, yeah, of course, yeah. But I don't need to prove that, all right? And KindaFunny takes care of you all the time. Look at all the merch you're wearing all the time that I think we send you that we don't buy.
I do like the desk was very nice. The desk was
we gave you a desk, for God's sake.
The desk
you know
is
what I
really
mean?
nice. Yeah, to work.
What did IGN do? Pear just flicked a cigarette at you as you left.
Okay, if we're using the line as IGN, I feel like we took a couple of wrong turns to begin with.
The PSN message this week comes from Delaney Twinning, who writes in at patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames, just like you can. It says, out of the 4 face button colors, which one is the best?
Colors?
Now, this is interesting. It's face button. These are the sacred symbols, of course. The face button colors, not which face button is the best, because we'd all agree it's X.
Well, no, I'd say square.
We're not talking about that though. So
we're
colors,
you don't have to throw your strays at me as I come through. I'm just a humble podcast host.
Well, no, you said X with way too much confidence, and when the answer
is because it's the one we use everything here in America.
That's not the question.
Yeah, but like square is like the action button. You know, you're hacking and slashing with square. What are you doing with X? Jumping?
The question is the color.
Accepting,
the
going
color.
Through. Sorry.
X doesn't even have confidence in itself, right? Like, do we call it X or do we call it cross? Square knows what it is.
The question was about the color, and
I think it's still square.
As far as the color,
I think it's still square
I think it
too.
might be square as well, because I think
no, honestly, for color, I would say
fun.
square. Yeah, square.
Yeah.
Pink,
but like, we don't
pink.
acknowledge color anymore. Like, look at the DualSense. It's not a thing anymore.
I was thinking about that
because we get the colored
one.
DualSenses.
Like on the white DualSense.
Yeah, even on the basic DualSense, there's no color.
Great point. Yeah, that's a great point. I guess you're right.
And you know what? Like, Mike has a lot to say about the DualSense. On a bad, like, it's just like unnecessary of like his complaints about the DualSense.
Keep trying, Bless.
It'll get there eventually.
The one thing that's not good about the DualSense, it needs to have those face button colors because I miss them.
I agree, but it's the thing of their design is so Detroit Become Human futuristic that I understand why they took out the colors, but I do miss them.
They should do a retro skin.
They should do that
a retro
for sure.
controller color, a retro like faceplate color.
100%.
I like the colors as well. I don't miss them on these controllers because I feel the DualSenses are all so designed to a T. What I will say is, Mike, of course, from the KindaFunny Xcast, I don't want him saying anything about it. First off, we all know his opinion is terrible because he hates the DualSense, which is an outrageous thing to say. But more importantly, what drives me crazy about my Xbox controller, I got the pink Xbox controller over there, is the fact that they then go put the colors still on it. They don't put the colors on the buttons anymore. They then have a little inlay on the controller that has the colors there. It throws off the whole motif. I hate it.
You have to put batteries in them. So what's with that, Greg?
Oh, it's because Phil Spencer hates the environment.
I had to change my batteries yesterday. It's the worst.
I still have the plain charge kit. You should buy that probably.
Plain
Yeah, so
the
50
charge
bucks.
kit.
Plain charge. Little battery. They
plain.
sell an official thing. I think mine might even be.
Is it like the
Last
bulky thing you put
generation?
at the back?
No. You open up the battery pack, you pop it in right there. You charge it with USB-C through as normal.
Yeah.
Oh, through USB-C.
Yeah.
But I mean, as the controller, I'll get it.
Because yesterday, what I was doing when I was playing Cuphead, this is a PlayStation podcast. But listen, we can throw shade at Xbox, but it's not like Mike's not listening. I plugged in my phone charger into my Xbox controller, but that became a problem because my phone started to die, and so I had to choose which one I wanted to be alive between my phone and my Xbox controller. I like that. I like that. The pink Xbox controller. But
but look what I'm talking about with the face buttons, right?
Yeah.
Where they put the little dots of color in there in case this is your first controller of all time or something.
See, that's weird because I have the
Too bad
Outriders
noticed
Xbox
those.
being accepting to everybody, new gamers.
on my Outriders controller. They don't have that.
Yeah, well, it's because that's a super custom one, right? That's not one you just bought in the
That's
store.
a nice controller.
Yeah, I like it a lot. If only I used it more.
All right, then we decided it's pink. That's easy.
Yeah.
The square.
Yeah.
I like it because it can be an understated pink. You know, and it's not like don't get me wrong. I obviously like
Is it pink or is it purple?
I
pink.
think of it as purple.
I think it was
What?
purple. I think it was just a understated pink. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying. that's
Yeah,
what I think
I've always seen it as purple. But I
Really?
I'm gonna Google
What?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it as purple as well. It's
That's pink.
Square button.
is this pink or purple to you? It's
That
pink?
shirt's purple.
He says canonically pink. Isaiah says what canon is this
Canonically?
based on?
In what
does he
canon
work
are we
for
talking
PlayStation?
about?
Yeah.
Hit you up and say this
Like,
is pink.
Does he have the
George
PlayStation
Lucas
Bible? How
says
does he
it's
know?
canonically pink.
Everyone's clowning you for this. Who said this?
It's like how it's crossed in that X.
But who said? Who, like Mr. PlayStation? Like he just said PlayStation said that it's pink. I was like, who said PlayStation?
What is
said?
because circle's orange, right?
You know what? I think it is kind
Are
of
you
pink.
fucking
though, 'cause
kidding
when
me?
you
No,
look at the
circle
lights,
is red.
No,
we
circle's
crazy?
definitely red. Circle's definitely red. Is this what color is this to you? What's the triangle to you?
Triangle?
Wes?
That's
green.
green.
Okay. Yep.
Okay,
mhm.
thank
And
God.
the X and the cross. What is that?
X is blue.
Any Ronan in the
Okay.
chat goes, really blessing. Greg's shirt is purple, my dude. And I agree that, this would be purple. But I
guess it
agree
is.
that pink
Your
isn't in
shirt-
your face. It isn't like a bah pink. It isn't bah.
When you look at Janet's
it's
shirt
adult
in that
pink.
square,
It's
is
adult
that not
pink.
purple?
It looks more
The shirt
purple on the
looks
shirt.
Her
for
shirt
sure.
looks purple for some reason, but when you look at the controller or the online version of the button, it's
You
pink.
know what? Okay, looking at the
I
square,
feel like this is an officially licensed shirt.
looking at it in
so-
front of a white backdrop, I think helps the pink pop a little bit. But seeing the pink on black, I think makes it look purple. I'm willing to give up that is
It is
that
pink
is
though.
indeed
Yeah,
pink.
you guys are right. It's pink.
But
yeah.
circle is for sure orange, right?
That's
No,
like
it's definitely red.
That's
3000% red.
Like look at what you're seeing on screen right now, the circle, and then compare that to the PS I Love You, the red
it
and PS I Love You.
It does look orange on this picture, but it's definitely red. It looks more.
I've
It looks like
always
a
seen
hot,
it as orange.
like an orange red.
It's like that
red.
one crayon that I loved as a kid. It was like the fire orange or something like that. Like it's a best of both worlds.
It's like hot Cheeto, yeah.
yeah.
In the chat, Joey, I think the white is throwing it off more. In the chat, Joey D says circle is definitely orange. I get the pink versus purple confusion, but circle is definitely orange. It is
Yeah.
not. It's red. And
The
here's
loose
what I
is
would say,
burnt
right?
Orange like Tim's jacket, deep cut.
No one has ever wanted to yell at us about anything as much as people who watch any of the shows, right? Like the PS I Love You colors are built around the PlayStation logo colors, right? That are red. And I'm talking about the PlayStation logo now, the P and the S and the little yellow on the ground. You know what I mean? But that's where they're drawing inspiration for the button, right? That red is not.
because it's not like there's yellow on the controller.
Yeah, no, that's why when Tim tried to sell me on that originally, I was like, I don't buy it 100%. It should be pink. But then he was like, the logo. I'm like, I get the logo from, when the PlayStation logo. But the
Yeah.
PlayStation logo, obviously.
PlayStation logo is red. Like I agree with you there, but I do think the circle button is indeed orange. Is there
So red.
what design Bible did?
Get this out of here. This is not official in any sense of the word.
just a smattering of
disgusting.
shapes.
What design Bible was Isaiah looking at when he said it was canon?
I don't know. He just said that PlayStation said this. He didn't tell me when they said it. Probably one of their 8 million blog posts, where they
Is this
Lay
a
it
poll?
all out.
Giggle as you say it.
I don't know. This is what I have to deal with.
Going back to
at
the,
home.
I don't know what video this image is from, but going back to the original PlayStation controller, right? That looks
PS1.
red to me.
That
looks
is
red.
red.
Really?
It's definitely red.
That looks orange to me. It's like a
Weston,
hot
you
orange.
might want to get your eyes checked.
I've always thought low-key that I might be colorblind, but that's mainly dark blues and black. I cannot tell the difference. Orange and red, I've never had a problem with. And like, it sounds like at least one person in chat agrees with me with the orange thing. That looks like orange to me. Do we want to do a at kind of funny games poll?
No, you're gonna lose that poll so bad. No,
Listen. I'm outnumbered here, so I probably will lose that poll. But I think there's probably a percentage that's with me.
I can do
I'll
it.
bet.
Let me do it. I'll just do it on mine. I'm already doing.
I'll bet that 20 to 25% are gonna be on my side. Now that
I
I've
think it's
said
gonna be
it,
a lot lower.
I'm gonna lose
I think it's
real
gonna be
hard.
like 12% high, like highest.
I'll also
but-
Google what percentage of people are colorblind.
Ooh, that's great. Actually, do that as well. That'd be wild if it was like 1 for 1.
I feel like wouldn't you
22%
know that
each.
though? Don't they do some of those tests with the eye doctor? And you wear glasses, so I feel like you would know if you.
Yeah, I went to the eye doctor last year. I don't remember doing a colorblind
CVD.
test.
Yeah, they make you do
AKA
that test where there's like all the dots, and
yeah.
like some of them are purple or pink or red or whatever. I don't know how to. I'm not an optometrist, so I don't
here's
know what they
here's what
actually
it
have
is.
in there.
I don't because I'm not trying to sway the vote. And I don't think I am because unless you're watching live, what up, Trogs? You wouldn't know. Settle the craziest argument I've ever been in. Is the PlayStation circle button
Seems a little leading.
red or orange? Well, no, red or orange. You don't know which side I'm on.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's even.
I like that.
Sure.
Sing it for an hour and 45 so we can check it.
Okay.
Is this like here's the thing, right? Like,
Colorblindness affects about 7 to 8% of the population.
okay, that's.
I think it's just your
a high number.
perception because I can see why you call it orange because it's not like a super deep primary red in all its iterations.
And see, I'll give you that
However,
too
to
as
me,
well,
it's very
especially when you look
clearly
at other things. Like all the colors here are not like hot pink, evergreen green, royal blue, fire truck red. Like they all are muted to a degree.
Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, like with Square, I see it. Like with Square,
And
I
red and
understand
orange
how
are right next to each other. So
after looking at the Square button on a black controller for so long, how putting it up against white, oh shit, okay, that's actually pink. With Circle, seeing it in other places, I'm still like, that is orange. But I might be crazy. This isn't a Daft Punk
I
situation.
mean, it's one of
where
those.
I'm
This
trying
is
to
gonna
die by the
go, and
sword.
these will change as you go. But like, you're not alone. That's the thing.
Okay.
Is like once you said it and you were so confident, I'm like, oh my god, other people believe this. And even we had Joey D over here, right, who clearly got kicked by a mule this morning. He's not. His rods and cones are all over the place. He agrees with you, but right now I got 75-25 on my poll in favor of red.
75-25? Okay, that's
Yeah.
exactly
But that's
exactly
early.
what I called it.
It's like the Twitter polls kind of flip out. 70-30 now. We'll see. What,
Okay,
we'll see.
so I'm not
80-20.
entirely crazy this time around.
You are not entirely crazy.
Yeah,
about
like
this
look,
color
Barrett
thing.
brought up that image. That looks clear. That looks orange, like clear as day orange. to me.
This?
Yes.
no.
This is
No.
so red to me.
Interesting.
That look
Ca-
like
I'm-
the circle
I'm
almost looks
scheduling an eye
closer
doctor
to
soon.
pink than it does to orange.
Square is yes. Well, no, I'm looking at Square. I'm looking at Square right now because Square looked for a second purple and then it snapped back to pink, almost like that dress situation on Facebook a few years ago.
Oh
if you remember that?
man,
It's
I
exactly what it
think-
is. And let me
Did
tell
a
you,
lot.
this
Decided.
again. This is a shocking turn of events, right? Where it's like AME responds, it's a peachy orange color. Would be closer to pink than red. It's not red. Directly underneath is Max, who goes, "Who on earth says it's orange?"
I am
Welcome to
shocked
the
by the
Federal,
revelation.
everybody. What was supposed to be the nice icebreaker question will now madden us this entire show.
I'm shocked.
This
that
wouldn't
you
have
guys are
happened if
so-
we just answered the actual question and then walked away, but that never happens here. So
No, of course not. That wouldn't be a fun podcast, you know?
It's the fact that like we have like red on the top and bottom of our squares here,
And that's so red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and these like this is red clear as day.
Well,
you put
I
the circle
think
next to
those
that.
colors aren't based off of the face logos. Those are based off the original OG.
Yeah, the logo,
PS,
For
the
sure.
PlayStation logo.
Well, like the circle that you're showing is like so far from this for me. That's an orange.
it is
Like
farther
pull
from it.
up an orange and then pull up the circle and put them next to each other.
Well, colors are gradients, though, is the thing. I feel like
mean,
this
true.
moment in time speaks to a lot of what this show is.
I like,
also.
and that now
The fact that
Lucas
we can't
King
even
in the
agree on
responses.
what we see, what we're looking at.
Lucas King in the responses he's holding his red controller, his Dual Shock 4. It says red controller for contrast with the button on it. He goes, "It's red." And like when he's doing this, I'm like, I thought it was going the opposite way of him holding up, and it was going to be, here's what a red controller looks like. The
Yeah.
button clearly isn't red.
That looks more red to me.
Really? I'll give it this. Maybe it's a faded red. Like it's definitely not hot red. Like
Just like a faded pink.
Greg
Muted,
Greg was
everything's
talking
muted.
about. But this is almost like the burnt orange situation that Tim was talking about with his jacket, where I'm like,
Yeah.
a faded red is just orange at that point, right? Like red is orange is red.
It's the
is
same
yellow.
thing as always where it's not the red you think of when you think of red. I have Carl Wade in my responses here. It says, anybody that calls it orange needs to test their eyes. Also, the PlayStation manual says it's red, so, and cites this.
Okay.
When you press the PlayStation button, the light bar will glow to a uniquely assigned color. The color that it is assigned depends on the order in which the user presses the PlayStation button. The first controller to connect is blue, the second is red, the third is green, and the fourth is pink.
Here's what I'll say. I am scheduling an eye doctor appointment soon because it's about time for my yearly eye checkup. I'll ask him. I'll be like, hey, is there a way I can do a quick colorblind test?
But
I
again,
will say-
I don't think this is your problem. I think it is like it exists not in a true red or a true orange. I think Janet's going to bring up a color wheel right now, and I think this might solve something.
I did send over a color wheel. Now, granted, this is the first one I like randomly found, so there's like.
But it kind of
many
backs our
variations.
point, so we will cite it as the one that is the real one.
Yes, I would argue that the PlayStation Red is that smoothie color, which is labeled red orange in this color wheel.
Well, see, I would think it's more of a candy apple, but yeah, okay.
Here's
What? It's definitely not candy apple.
Smoothie, look at how light smoothie is. It's not that light.
Well, maybe it's not that light.
Yeah, I would
It
say
can
candy
be
apple.
sometimes.
I would
Thank
say
you very
candy-
much, Bear, for once again
Yeah.
being on the right side of history.
apple. Barrett,
Sometimes
this
it
is what I
looks
need
like
from
smoothie.
you. I need you to open up Photoshop. I
No.
need you to go to the color tool. I need you
Oh.
to.
This is what I
need
was
you-
trying to get Andy to come do this, but Andy isn't responding to my slacks.
I need you to
That's
use like the
dramatic.
color drop thing, sample the PlayStation button orange, and then just paint bucket it onto the
I'll
screen.
just let you know right now. My OBS does not like when I open up Photoshop. So
What is Andy doing? Bang on his door. You know, actually, he was doing some stuff, I think, for an important project. Don't bang on his door. Don't bang on his door.
A lot of people are clicking through this episode for the God of War talk, and you know what? Hey, this is what you
There's
get when you
timestamps.
open up PS Love You.
Speaking of the God of War talk, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump to topic of the show. It has finally happened. Sony Santa Monica has ended their silence which was just saying we're not ready to announce a date. It announced a date, November 9th, ladies and gentlemen, 2022. God of War Ragnarok is coming. Blessing, what were your first thoughts when you saw the news?
Cool. I'm glad we can finally all put it to rest. I've been so tired the last few weeks of the back and forth on the internet of just angry, rabid fans, just like asking for a date so hard that it turns from asking into harassment, and then you start to become ashamed as somebody who really likes PlayStation and somebody who is also looking forward to God of War, being like, really, do we have to do this? Do people have to be shitty and have to go after these developers?
Reminds me a lot of Insomniac Spider-Man about the puddles and then about the Raimi suit, where
Yes.
it all went from fun and games to like, oh my God, leave these people alone.
Yeah, like these people are human beings. Leave them the fuck alone. That said, I'm happy to have the date. You know, it's exciting that it's still coming this year. I am surprised that it's not. They didn't announce it through doing a PlayStation State of Play. That's how they've been doing a lot of the individual game stuff. Not saying necessarily that they won't do a State of Play for God of War, but I am kind of happy that they didn't at the same time, because this is a game that I think we're all already sold on, and I think the further we can get to the closer we can get to the game without big reveals dropping through trailers and all that stuff, the more excited I'm gonna be for it. Like, I want the mystery. I want to know nothing going into it, so I can be surprised by every single element of the game. So I'm really excited.
I'll start here. I want to start. I want to get through what Janet thought too when she rolled over in her sick bed to find out about this. But also, Marty Primit wrote in to patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames, just like you can. It says, now that we have a release date, when do you think we'll see more of God of War Ragnarok? Hey, PlayStation circle button. Is it red or orange?
Just the pause.
Marty says, when do you think we'll see more God of War Ragnarok? It seems weird we've only seen a few minutes of it when the game is coming out in 4 months. Janet, do you think we'll get a state of play for God of War Ragnarok?
I think so, just because you want to market the game. And I feel like I'm trying to think of, is there a major PlayStation release where we didn't get some form of specific highlighting? And I don't think there is. So that's why I would argue that we will get something. But I'd also argue that I don't think it's going to be super insightful in terms of what we can expect in the same way, especially looking back on Horizons. Like I think thinking about how Horizon did theirs, it was a lot of looking at the mechanics and kind of the general combat, but even like what happened didn't actually end up happening in the game.
Yeah,
So it was kind of just like it was meant to be like the vibe. So I think we'll get more of that kind of thing rather than, I don't know, something that's super insightful in terms of like the overall story. I think it'll be a lot more mechanically focused with like maybe a little bit of like narrative highlighting, but even that I kind of hesitate to have much. I think they're a lot more into the sort of breadcrumbing and the tone setting in terms of revealing narrative, just kind of letting people piece together things about what does this specific depiction of like Kratos and Atreus what does this might imply about the relationship? You know, like I've seen like people talk about, well, he's crafting his arrow, so it like shows that they sort of, and then he's in the background, so it's like, oh, they're more like separated. Maybe this, that, and the other. You know, I think it's going to be a lot more mysterious going in, but I do think we'll get something because they want to sell you the game.
I think they will too. I don't know if I would imagine I see it one of two ways. Obviously, they put out the footage we're seeing right here. They put out a cinematic trailer this week with it. And then from there, you got to do more gameplay. And I don't know if you go and you do the whole, hey, we're doing the Horizon thing. Let's explain nuts and bolts, very, very, minute detail of what's going on. But I don't want to say hold out hope, but I still have the inkling, very similar to you, Bless, that number one, I don't need more about this game. I'm sold on this game. But from what we've seen so far and the fact that we haven't seen much, I really do hold out hope that it's going to be a Raiden kind of thing, where you're going to be playing this game and it's going to be everything we've seen is from the first hour and a half, and then it just goes bonkers into a different place you never saw it going.
That's where I come down on in terms of if they do a state of play, how do they do it? Because I feel like comparing this to Horizon, right? Horizon is a game where jumping from Horizon Zero Dawn into Forbidden West, the stuff that they're showing aren't really spoilery at all. It is, hey, here's new weapons, here's new enemy types, here's, new, you can swim now, you've upgraded melee. It's all the nuts and bolts stuff that you'd really want to show to get people who are already excited for the game more excited, or people that might not have been excited about it, maybe get them excited and involved. Whereas God of War, the mechanics of God of War 2018 are so entwined with the story and who the characters are, where, if you have a new weapon as Kratos, do you want to reveal that, or do you want that to be a surprise in the game? If you have a new ability, right, or if you're playing as Atreus, or if there's a brand new enemy, right, there's so many elements of stuff that would be mechanically involved in God of War Ragnarok that I would save for the game. Like, I feel like revealing them in a state of play would end up being spoilery anyway.
100%, yeah, and you don't want that. And again, like, how much do you need to sell this game? Like, you don't. It's gonna be just fine. Everyone's fucking stoked about it. So I hope they lie to us.
Why not sell it anyway? You know what I mean? I think.
Sorry, go ahead,
Barrett.
No,
go for it.
With the state of play, I think you just do not even go into the depths that the Horizon one did, but you just do a snippet like they did when they originally revealed God of War 2018, where it's literally like, we didn't know where in the game that was, and like even like with that like 10 minutes of gameplay footage, you got enough to just understand what the combat looked like, and that was like pretty much it. That like, and Kratos has this child, and they are gonna go on this big wild adventure, because I remember the shot ending after they kill the deer of just like the dragon flying over them and stuff like that. Very different shot in the final game, obviously, but I think you can do something like that, like 8 minutes very early on in the game, to give you a sense, because the big question a lot of people have been having is like, is this going to be sequelitis? Is this going to be more iterative, like Ratchet and Clank, where they're not really like doing a whole lot different, that'll like keep it to a 10 out of 10 like God of War 2018? And I think they could show just enough of like, hey, the big difference here is enemy variety, and even though moment to moment gameplay isn't going to change a lot, because we're changing up enemy types, it's going to change the way you're thinking about combat. And I think if they have something like that, that could be very easy for them to quickly get in and out, show just enough to get people hyped for the release in, let's say it's in September, 2 months away, right? I think they could easily do that.
And I also think they could also maybe show a set piece, like one set piece, and have that
Sure.
be a thing. You know, they did that for Uncharted 4. They did that quite a few times actually. But the one that I remember standing out was where it was the chapter where you're driving through, and I think it leads into like the clock tower stuff, or leads out of it. I can't remember.
The taking the Jeep down the road.
That was
right?
that E3 that year. I think that was their last E3, or not the last E3, but like it was at least toward the end. And it's funny because I watched that, like I was doing like E3 like memory stuff on MinMax, and we watched that, and I had just played it, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that like I forgot this happened, because it was really cool to experience it organically. But yeah,
like, could you do that for God of War Ragnarok, right? Like, hey, let's not show our chips, let's not show any of the surprises. I'm sure this is a game that's full of set pieces and full of extended sequences of really cool battle scenes, really cool choreography, really cool cutscenes. Let's just show one. Right, like what if it is Kratos and Atreus versus another dragon, or like some other kind of beast, and we do that for 8 minutes and have that be the thing to whet your appetite to then get into the actual game when it releases.
I'm in. Do it. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of things to talk about. So we're arguing about this part, and when you'll see it, of course, answering this question, we're arguing about colors and stuff like that. We have to make predictions for Ragnarok, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a time capsule. We know now, November 9th, a Wednesday, which we'll get to in a little bit. That's a weird day. For God of War Ragnarok, but we need to make predictions. Now, this is all obviously key to you having beaten the game. This is you have to know where we're going, you have to know where we've been, kind of thing. And so, even before we get to the predictions, we have to talk about when we're doing a PS I Love You replay of this, because it has to happen. I'm rusty, bless Janet. I need to replay this game.
I've been going back and forth on if I'm going to replay it. And
are you worried about like having too much?
Yes, because that happened to me with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Not that ruined the game for me or anything like that, but we did do the re-review of Ratchet and Clank 2016, and I had fun with it. Went into Rift Apart and still really enjoyed Rift Apart, but by the end of it, I was like, oh man, I'm ratcheted it out. Like, I'm not as excited about this franchise anymore.
I think it's a symptom of Ratchet and Clank specifically, and I know that's gonna make people mad because I always drag Ratchet and Clank. But I was there since day one. Like, you can't come for me. I had the guide with the sealed secret section. I love that game. I love that franchise. However, I think there's so many iterations of it, and it never really has made a big revamp or pivot. Like, the big thing with the new one was just that it was really beautiful looking, and they did do some cool stuff with some extra characters and things. But I don't think you have to worry about that as much.
I hope not.
This one,
because I mean, as core, right? Like, we've seen the OG trailer for God of War Ragnarok, where they are showing off gameplay, and it is, you have the Leviathan axe. It seems like you have the Blades of Chaos too. Your boat. You got the boat. You also have like
it was like, it's the same animation for getting in the boat. Shut up.
But PlayStation game, you get in a boat.
I think gameplay wise, a lot of it is going to be similar up until when hopefully it's not, right? Like,
but see, that's my thing. Is I think that's why I got to go with the red herring thing. Is they're showing us so much stuff that I've said it before in the show after they showed the first gameplay of it in the fast snippets that Barrett already showed, where I was like, honestly, it's been long enough that you could have shown me that, and it told me it was God of War, and I'm like, oh, was it? Maybe. Okay, I can kind of see it. Like, the fact that I feel that way about it makes me think that that's going to be a red herring. They're going to switch it up right away. And I don't know if that means we play as Atreus right away. I don't know if that means we get rid of the Leviathan axe right away and we're on to something else. And maybe I'm totally wrong, and maybe it is just this is the sequel to God of War, so you are using that same stuff and like. But like, are we going to start the game with the axe, with the blades, and be ready? Like, it's just.
I think so. Like, and this is probably going to be where we transition to predictions. My prediction is that
exactly, Chief.
First third into first half, you are doing the traditional. You're playing as Kratos. You have the Leviathan axe. You have the Blades of Chaos, and it's the gameplay you know and love from God of War 2018. And then somewhere along the line, like during the trailer that Barrett has brought up right now, right, that gameplay, the longer gameplay trailer that dropped, I think last year or maybe earlier than that, for God of War Ragnarok, a lot of the back and forth between Kratos and Atreus is about this war against Asgard. Oh man, Dad, you have to think. I forget if he says Dad, but the father, you have to think like a general, right? Like, not like a father, right? You have to we have to be in this mind state for war. Atreus is ready for war. Kratos seems like he's very much trying to not go the war route. Sure. And my prediction is that Loki / Atreus is gonna push it there, where it is like, no, we gotta go to war. Like they're after us. We gotta fight Freya and Odin and Thor and all these guys. And in that process, again, about like a third to a half into the game, that is when Kratos dies. I think Kratos dies during that whatever this fight against Odin and Thor becomes, and then that's when Atreus takes over, and the gameplay does shift because it does become Atreus rocking whatever weapons he's doing, right? The bow and arrow, maybe a new melee weapon, something along those lines.
Well, he probably picks up Dad's weapons, right?
Maybe.
But then, of course, you got to get into this whole thing that I'm sure we'll get into in the predictions of how complicated the mythos here is. Actually, yeah, you know what? Barrett, if you want to stop this, can you bring up, I've linked it here at number 7 on the prediction thing at number A. This is, of course, when Corey Barlog came in for our spoiler cast for God of War 2018. We asked questions that then got into time travel and then really fucked up my mind. So can we watch that real quick, Barrett?
Yeah, give me a second here.
You do your thing. We'll listen in.
As you're prepping, Greg, you mentioned like he's going to pick up his dad's weapons. Another prediction of mine is that in that same war segment, Thor dies. Atreus picks up the Mjolnir as his weapon.
Oh, yeah. You know that's is it Kratos or Atreus or whoever we're throwing.
This is interesting stuff, and I have a rebuttal after we watch this little clip from Corey Barlog.
Excellent. Well, after this, we will recognize the nation of Barrett.
No, because you've seen him in the same place at the same time. Is Kratos the world serpent? No, because you've seen him in the same place at the same time.
But he got kicked through time or whatever. Remember, the world serpent exists kind of all over the place. That was the big thing you guys said in your game. And then Kaz, Kaz here says in the same thing. So, as the serpent is Loki's, Atreus' son. That's in traditional myth, correct?
That is the myth.
Okay. Yep. Is he going to be born as Kratos dies? And indeed, Kratos being sent back in time to help them stop the true ending of Ragnarok explains the beard and the white and the red scales on the world serpent.
All right. Cause I can tell you that all these things are going to be answered in the future, but we've set a lot of things in motion with this game, and we intend to sufficiently answer every one of these things. Is Kratos the world?
Thank you. Thank you very much, there, Bear. Thank you very much. Now, as I said, the floor here at PS I Love You XOXO will recognize the great senator from the state of Cleveland, Bear Courtney.
No, don't label me as a senator from anything from Ohio. I don't want to be. I don't want to be associated with any of the shit that's happening in that state right now. Shout out to Lakewood, Ohio, though, for still trying to protect its citizens. I think they're gonna double down on Kratos, and you're just gonna play as Kratos this entire game. I think you get separated from Atreus at one point, though.
Okay.
I also don't think that Kratos would die. I just don't think they're gonna do that. Like, I feel like I think it's always been a story inherently about Kratos, with Atreus just kind of being a part of that story. And I think there might be a time when you play as Atreus, or maybe you think Kratos might be dead, but I just don't see them actually killing him off. And I don't know that they would. I like the idea of Atreus sort of like picking up where kind of Kratos left off in terms of mechanics, but I feel like how would you differentiate that? Like, it would just be a worse, like mechanically, I feel like that wouldn't hit as hard or be as good. So I don't think they could just be like, well, now he's in that role, because it wouldn't have that same feel. So
here's where I want to jump in on this, because I'm going to go through. I want these answers. Our time capsule here for Ragnarok. We can come back to maybe on our spoiler cast in November, I guess. Janet says Kratos won't die. I say he will. I think he does die here, and I do think he plays Atreus. But I think what happens is, and this is where it's so weird. And if you didn't listen to our spoiler cast, I know a lot of you did because it's so successful. But go check out the KindaFunny spoiler cast for God of War with Corey Barlog, because Corey's great in it. It doesn't pull punches. It talks about both behind the scenes for 2018 and a little bit teases going forward, but talks a lot about the fact that there are so many different Norse myths, and that even the scholars of Norse mythology can't agree necessarily on points. So there's a lot of room for them to play around with it. There's a whole thing about how the world serpent is Atreus' son, and how it looked like as you're playing, or Loki's son, as you play through that, it wouldn't look that way. But then the wall does say that, indicating maybe Atreus, or AKA Loki, goes back in time. I think that is interesting. Where, stick with me, it could be very interesting, and it's up to them to explain it, of course. But that when Ragnarok happens here, and they go and fight the thing, and they have to kill the thing, and yada yada yada, that Atreus gets kicked back through time, and then grows up as Loki in that world. He's the one that blows the horn, right, to call the world serpent. Remember when Kratos is trying to help out Loki in the first game, and everybody's like, who blew the horn? And there's a whole conversation in that spoiler cast with Corey about who blew the horn. I think it could be Loki, aka older Atreus, who's grown up throughout this thing. And then I think when Kratos, it's almost, I wouldn't even be surprised if we get kicked through time, play for a while, and then whatever, get there. And then by the time we get there to be and pick up Mjolnir or pick up the blades or pick up whatever, we are old Loki, and we get to have that conversation with Kratos as he dies, or we get to play alongside him for a while, but we play as old Loki, who, to your point, Janet, wouldn't just be a weaker Kratos. This is a Loki who has been alive for probably centuries, whatever they're doing with their world building, right? And so he's not big and bulky, because I think that's something they nailed so well in 2018, this Kratos who feels heavy, right? He is a grown-up version of Atreus, so he is light on his feet. He is doing kick flips and back flips and weird
it's
twists.
Like the Joel Ellie transition from Last of Us 1 to Last of Us 2.
Yeah, but they play way more similarly, in my opinion. Like, I mean, I know, like, Ellie's more agile because Joel was like, but it's like, I feel like that's more like the mechanics grew up and evolved over the span of time between the two games, rather than a commentary on the character's inherent ability. But it's kind of apples and oranges, because they're not like super magical or powerful, even though they're the strongest woman in the world, moving these giant milk crates.
They didn't market it that way, though. Like, I remember leading into Last of Us Part 2, they were talking about how, Ellie is more agile than Joel because she's younger and she's more lean, and like
got them good knees.
She got the better knees, and so she can like hide under cars and shit that Joel can't do. Even though Last of Us Part 1 is coming through, and we'll see if Joel can hide under cars in that game.
He's not gonna hide under the cars. I don't think. I want him to, though.
The more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, they're not gonna do it. I don't think,
because I think it would, now we're talking about a different game, but like I think it would fundamentally change what that experience was in a way that seems more extreme than what they seem like they were going to be doing. I don't know. We'll get to that later, I guess. But
to bring it back here, right? Like, I do like the question of, if you're playing as an Atreus that inherently just feels different from Kratos because he isn't big and bulky and he hasn't been this god of war with all the muscles.
And think about it, like if he's using Mjolnir and he's got his bow and arrow, right? And again, this is where you're saying first half of the game. I would think it's like mere hours into the game. This whole thing happens, and that's why we've seen the footage we've seen of them together, and it looks very similar. But then you do this thing, and it's this huge shift, and we get Atreus
in my head. I treat it as the Blades of Chaos moment from God of War 2018, where it was, here's the big shift. Right now, you're going from the Leviathan X into this new weapon, but this new weapon is actually the old weapon. It's the Blades of Chaos, and you have this shift of gameplay, but it works because Sony Santa Monica are fantastic at what they do. That's kind of the same shift in moment, but I do like the idea that it is happening 10% of the game in the way that it's a Metal Gear Solid 2 thing of, you thought it's going to be this. Actually, the whole game is going to be this entirely different thing that is still honoring the legacy of the previous one, but is able to stand on its own and exist as its own, because now you are this apparently time-traveling Loki. That blows my mind a little bit, the idea of time travel, but I'm not dismissive of it. I like the idea, but that does seem like a step far for what.
You don't mind a big old fucking talking snake?
The Norse mythology does say he gets punched so hard that he gets sent back into time or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember, the serpent. Corey talks about this thing. The serpent recognizes them when they shows up, or just recognizes Loki. He recognizes one of them or whatever. When he's talking about
Atreus tells Kratos he recognizes Kratos or something like that. From what I remember. So one of my questions, right?
Recognizing Barry Courtney from the great state of Hawaii.
Thank you. We've got the World Serpent, one of Loki's children. This new cinematic trailer also showed us this big wolf boy, who I'm gonna assume is Fenrir. And so we're getting into multiple of possible Loki children here. So
for sure,
how do you think that all plays in as well at this
point?
Well,
my question for you guys is this a duology or a trilogy? Like,
they said this is a duology.
They say it was just.
I thought they just said that this is Cory Barlog's last one. Did they say this is the?
No,
he's not even directing this.
What do they couch it as?
He's not, isn't he?
Yeah, they had said the statement was that this was going to be the last one in this series, because to do a trilogy would be another 5 years or whatever. And do they really want to work on one game for 15 years? I think I'm playing a little fast and loose with the quotes, but that was the gist of it.
I asked that because I'm like, man, how much can they fit in here? Right? Like, are you going to get all that stuff in one game?
That's why I think it has to move faster than you do. Okay. You know what I mean? I think if you're gonna, and it could also be there. You go. You're showing us a VGC article. God of War is ending its Norse story because we didn't want to spend 15 years in trilogy. Fuck, I nailed it, guys. No big deal. I think
Yeah,
especially
360
if you're
no-scope,
ending that
quote,
and
nice.
you're moving to a different God of War, then you're in a different place, right? If you move to Loki, I saw it go through the chat. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but Tyr, Tyr,
Tyr.
he's
Here,
he's
Norse
never
God
been
of War.
seen before in Norse mythology or whatever. But then people are saying he's in the trailer here, and so that could be the thing. Even though some people have thought that maybe Kratos was him, and yada yada yada, a whole bunch to unpack there. I do think that this is a new start for God of War. I think this will be the true ending for Kratos, and then they've established new character in Atreus / Loki that we hopefully love enough that we want to keep going with, that we want to do some stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm fine, and I believe that they could kill Kratos in this one, because if you're able to do that, and then
Do you think they will? I'm asking you to make a prediction.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's where I'm standing. I think they kill Kratos sometime in the first half, and you pick up his Loki. And I think even in future games, right, once you get whatever the next God of War is, if it's in a different mythology, I think it could still either star Loki / Atreus, or star an entirely different character in a different mythology, and they're able to continue the franchise that way.
So then now the question becomes, will Kratos die? Janet says no. Me and Leslie say yes. Janet, will you play as Atreus?
Yeah.
And I'm going beyond just the the button commands to make him shoot arrows or whatever.
Yeah. I think so. I like the idea that I forget which one of you guys like threw it out there of them being separated and that needing to be sort of part of it. Yeah, I'm gonna say yes. I just don't. Yeah, I'm just gonna hit there. I'm gonna say yes.
Blessing, you're saying yes?
I'm saying yes, and I'll even go as far because I don't see this on the thing, so I'll throw in an extra
Add it in
prediction while
there.
I'm here. Angerboda, if I'm saying that, I'm probably butchering that name. But like, she's the new girl that you see, I believe, toward the end of one of the trailers, right? The young black girl with like dreads, who I believe in Norse mythology is supposed to be Loki's partner, if I have that correct. I think that she'll be your new companion character once Kratos dies.
Oh,
At least at a certain point, I think she'll be your new companion.
Oh,
Yeah, because they made a point to like point her out in the trailer. I love how you spell this out in the doc, by the way. You definitely
Angry Boda. I heard you
phonetically.
perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right
That's
now,
a
Barrett has it pulled
fascinating
up.
theory. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
She's gonna be a major character, right? Because of her relationship with Loki. And then toward the end of the trailer, they give her like a whole reveal, like a whole scene of like, hey, look at this person. Like, she's here also. And looking up, right? I believe she's called like the mother of monsters. I did like a very loose Norse mythology, like a research right before this. I believe she is like the mother of like the world serpent and maybe even Fenrir.
That's right.
I'm talking
Because they're both Loki's children.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think she's going to play a very heavy role.
That's a really smart call.
And it would make sense to have her be a companion just to get all that narrative in there of like all the back and forth of the talk and the character growth and all that stuff.
She's also the ruler of Dead Hell.
Yes.
Dead Hell.
And this comes back to my original idea of early on, you have the war of Kratos and Atreus versus Asgard. I think either... I'm gonna do it this way, right? After that initial war happens and Kratos dies, and you're taking up Atreus as a character. I think that's when you see Atreus and Angerboda kind of team up, and then the war does become, it is Loki, it is Brock and Sindri, whoever else that they're friends with, and it is Angerboda and her army of like, here's the world serpent, here's Fenrir, here's the army of the dead from Helheim. I think that's how you actually make that war exciting towards an actual climactic moment in the game.
That sounds cool. Everybody rushing onto the battlefield at each other.
Yeah, it's like Avengers Endgame.
Yeah. Do you think? So we have gone through this. Are we going to play? Are we going to kill? Or are we going to do whatever? Do you think Atreus and Kratos fight, and are we in control of that at some point?
Yeah, because I think it'd be dramatic and cool.
Yeah, and I don't mean argue. I mean obviously fight. Almost, yeah. Like the stranger fight
like
or
we're
whatever.
like throwing hands. Like that's yes.
You want like a boss fight situation?
Yeah.
See, I think it would be. I think if Atreus gets punted back through time and then Loki shows up, and this is how I'm going to use my terminology to make it make sense. You have adult Loki show up. I think Loki shows up, and it'd be fun to be Kratos and be like, or maybe that's even when you switch characters. But Kratos doesn't believe that that's actually Atreus, so he immediately escalates it to a fight, and you have to fight him and brawl with him. And at some point, obviously, you say something, Father.
But also somehow this not being just the structure of Last of Us 2. Like, just, you know what I mean? Because I feel like that is kind of how that rolls out. I don't think it'd be quite as intensive in terms of like if you were to split the characters and have like separate mechanical experiences with each. Like I don't think it'd be quite as chaptered out. Like I think it'd be more integrated than that.
Sure.
This is interesting now that you bring this up, because I really like that idea of Kratos and Atreus fighting, and what if that's our kind of the way that the major kind of a gameplay test for God of War 2018 was the fight with the stranger at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah,
and you get that same moment with Atreus, but the fight is against Kratos. And we do have this image that we've been kind of like avoiding talking about, but like we do have this straight up image from the end of 2018 where Atreus is like over Kratos's body, his head is like split open, and it seems that Atreus is giving birth to possibly the world serpent there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like a snake coming out of Atreus's mouth.
So what if it is that like?
But it's like ghostly.
Yeah.
Oh, leave it up. I love it. Because like if you're not familiar with this, both Kratos and Atreus here are fleshed out, filled out. Like they look like, paintings of them, but then the world serpent, coming out of Loki's mouth is drawn like a sketch rather than a full-fledged
and it looks like it's going like, I think we've been
looks
assuming
like
that this is the world serpent, but it also looks like it's something also going into Kratos. Or maybe out of Kratos into Atreus, like.
Well, again, there's that rumor that the theory that the world serpent is in fact Kratos, and that could be it too.
And I buy that. And the read I had on this was that because I think this scene was trying to allude to Atreus is going to kill Kratos, but I think it's a little bit of a red herring. My prediction is that Kratos just dies in Atreus's arms, but that does end up giving birth to the world serpent in some weird time travel way. But I do think that it will be.
Arms tonight.
Which is that more Daft Punk?
No, I just died in your arms tonight song. No, it's not Daft Punk.
I do think that'll be Atreus's fault that Kratos dies, though.
I like the idea of the boss fight, and Atreus is the one who actually kills Kratos. Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
I think if they fight in that way,
they're fighting because Atreus wants to go like straight up after the Norse gods, and Kratos really doesn't want to, and he's trying to stop his son from going full force into there. And then after that, like Atreus kills him, gets his way, and then tries to take on the Norse gods, and it's Odin who punches Atreus so hard that he travels back in time.
I think if Atreus and Kratos do fight, it'll be in the way that Greg described, in like this interesting like time travel. Oh, it's adult Atreus and he wants to complete this mission, but Kratos doesn't believe him and wants to stop him. The thing that I find tough is Atreus going all the way and killing Kratos in that situation, unless it is like a prophecy, like, oh, this has to happen so that we like in a Doctor Strange, like, oh, there's only one universe where we can win and I have to give up the time stone. I think that's the only way that an aware version of Atreus is going to kill Kratos, because I do think that they care too much about each other in this moment. Like we've seen them struggle in God of War 2018 of, Kratos not being a good father, Atreus learning he's a god and turning into a piece of shit for a scene, and having that like argument back and forth. I don't know if we're gonna have for a few scenes actually. I did not like Atreus when he learned he was god.
He's a little punk ass kid. I liked it. I mean, I didn't like him, but I liked the scene.
But like I don't know if we're gonna get that level of strained relationship aside from the passive like, we got to go to war, Dad being like, no, we don't got to go to war. I don't know if they're gonna kill each other necessarily.
Blessing. Is Atreus gonna fight Kratos?
No.
Okay. I'm saying yes as well.
I do think he'll be responsible for his death, but not enough. They're not gonna fight.
What if none of this stuff happens? Also.
Hey, we're all surprised by the game. We have a great time. You know what I mean? That's what it's about.
What if it is just like, today. Here's more God of War 2018?
Ladies and gentlemen, I will give you an update now on the PlayStation poll we have right now. Settle the craziest argument I've ever been in. Is the PlayStation circle button red or orange? Right now, red is winning, commanding lead, 85.2% to 14.8%. Which is in line with what Blessing thought his numbers might be. We've brought in our color expert, the Hispanic heartthrob, Texas treat, Latino heat, clicking heads and ripping them to shreds, the globe trotting, head shotting, rootin' tootin', nitro rifle from twitch.tv, Andy Cortez.
Color theorist, I prefer.
We've brought in the color theorist, aka the Hispanic. No, I'm doing the whole thing again. Hey, Andy, how are you? What do you got for me?
Did you want me to Google? Just come in with my opinion.
I want you to. You're the guy you're the color theorist on the Kind of Funny staff. I feel like you just know. And I mean, I didn't know if you're going to do some weird Photoshop stuff or what.
I
But
was
I feel
saying,
like,
Andy, is there a way we can go to the open up Photoshop, go to the color tool, do like the color drop thing where you sample a color so that it'll end up in your Photoshop file.
I could most
see.
definitely do something like that. I kind of wanted to come in with the wrong answer because I feel like that was going to piss off Greg the most.
for sure.
And I feel like maybe just based on Blessing's history with the colors of Halloween, that he was going to be on the other side. So I was just going to agree with Blessing. But it doesn't seem like we're kind of having that right now, right?
Well, we did this. So we went around the block on that part earlier, and then we went to the poll, and that's when it was like, oh, a lot of people are feeling one way or the other about this.
Okay. I mean, it's red.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about it, but okay.
So you think it's orange?
I mean, this whole time I've thought
You
it's
did.
orange. But I'm not like, I'm not strongly, this has to be orange or else the whole world is crazy, right? Like, this isn't Daft Punk, where everybody talks about how Daft Punk has all these hits. I've only heard 2 of them. Like, I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong here and that I might be slightly colorblind. But it is shocking to me. It is shocking to me that everybody thinks it's red.
I will say when I did the color picker thing, it came up with the little pound sign EE4B0F, which is Orioles orange, allegedly.
There you go.
So I don't know. That was surprising. Maybe my reference photo. I don't know how like official the reference photo I used was.
It's red,
It seemed
Janet.
fine,
Don't try to come in
but
here with this part.
I mean,
okay?
Janet actually did some scientific.
This is just what I
But
did.
Janet
I
doesn't
opened
know what she's
Canva.
doing.
I
If you
opened
let me
Canva, I
loose
used
in Fermilab with a bunch of beakers and stuff on a Bunsen burner, I'm going to do
Look,
some science stuff
it's
too. I don't know if I'm doing it right.
Canva Pro, not to flex, but it is the pro version. Do I
Andy,
pay
what
for it?
color?
Don't
Andy, what
ask.
color is the
Don't worry about
square?
it.
What color is the square to you, Andy?
The square to me, well, again, Janet brings up the different reference photos. I think a lot of the reference photos online differ and vary. I think the square is closest to like a pink.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But you can
Like
you can see the purple in it though, like how somebody would see that. Like I'm looking at Janet's shirt right now. I'm like, man, that's purple as hell.
Pink is
Yeah,
like a
on the
pale
shirt
purple.
it looks very purple on the shirt.
In the same way that orange is like a light red, some would say.
Mm-hmm.
There you have it.
It's definitely pink though. Also, I did the color picker thing, and it's like insanely pink when you do
God damn
that.
it.
Blessing, is God of War Ragnarok going to get delayed?
No, I don't think they would announce the date unless they're very confident in it. I think that's why that's one of the reasons why it's taken a while for them to actually put it out there in an official capacity, is because they want to make sure that they're able to hit it. And I think doubling down now, and Cory Barlog being back on Twitter and him quote tweeting people being like, "It's gonna happen this year." I think if it gets delayed, a lot of flack. He's gonna feel a lot of flack for it, and I don't think that they would do that unless he would do that, at least unless like they're to some extent very confident in it.
Agreed. Janet?
Yeah, definitely not getting delayed. I mean, I feel like that's going to be clipped out if it does get delayed. Anything can technically happen, but I am right there with you, Bless. Like, they were very, I mean, it's funny because it's like, oh, they were very intentional about when they did it. Everyone's intentional when they do it. They just unfortunately had the negativity surrounding it in that it's such like a known like franchise. It's a really anticipated game. We all had that window. So like coverage wise, we were like, I wonder when we're gonna see this. I wonder when it's gonna happen. Then, community wise, same thing. Again, sometimes I got extremely toxic, which sucked. So I just think there was more attention on it, and that kind of makes it, they were just kind of under a microscope in a way that other studios might not be, even if they had the same, like, we also said our game would come out in 2022, but no one cares as much about us following up on that as they did with Sony Santa Monica. So yeah, I feel pretty good that they're going to hit the date.
Is it better than God of War 2018? Currently, that has a Metacritic of a 94 right now, which of course is insanely high.
Are we talking about Metacritic specifically?
I mean, yeah, I guess 'cause it's the most boilerplate way to do it, but I think also what you can be of what we think.
Because I think it will technically be better. I think it'll have I think the gameplay will be more refined. I think they'll probably have a little bit more variety in terms of weapons and abilities and all that stuff. And this is them working off of the bones of God of War 2018, which was a 10 out of 10. And so I don't think there's any way to go down from here. I think it'll only get improved from there. I don't think it'll be as revered because I think to have to have lightning strike twice, right? In that way, and have a masterpiece hit twice. That is the most difficult thing for something that for something that I think is revered as much as it is, because it kind of came out of nowhere and was a redefinition of the franchise. God of War Ragnarok is not going to be a redefinition of the franchise, but I do think it'll be a step up in terms of a game. How that reflects on Metacritic, I think is very interesting, because I think now that we've seen God of War 2018, there will be, I think, more opportunities to pick apart, like, oh man, okay, God of War Ragnarok didn't innovate in these ways, or God of War Ragnarok did this thing that I liked better in 2018, or even in ways that, when we're talking about narrative, 2018's narrative I think is so great because it is so focused and so artfully done. When we're talking about the cinematic, here's a one-shot camera. We're gonna have no cuts in this game in this game in terms of camera. We're going to have it focused on Atreus, Kratos, and this journey that they're taking with spreading their mother's ashes on the top of the mountain. I think that is so personal, and like the story as a whole is so personal for the kind of game that it is in terms of this Norse action thing. And I don't think that's replicable in God of War Ragnarok. And so I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, that Metacritic won't be as high.
Okay.
I think it'll be close, but I don't think it'll be as high.
You said, it's so funny you said, building off the bones of a 10, a masterpiece, God of War 2018, there's nowhere for it to go down or whatever, and I disagree. Like, I think that the standards are so high and expectations are so high, and you get into the whole thing of, well, if they don't let us play as Atreus, if it is just what we've seen for another 20, 30, 40 hours or whatever, is that going to bring down what it is and the experience and what you want of it? Like, I can't wait for this game. God of War 2018 is my favorite game of all time right now, and I don't think this can be better than that. Like, I just don't. I think the bar is way too high, both for Metacritic and just for personal reception. Janet,
Interesting.
I think that it. I think it'll be better, but I don't think everyone will agree that it'll be better. I think it will score lower on Metacritic, and that is based on, honestly, just general vibes of like, it's they'd have to go really high to go higher. I mean, the Metacritic for God of War 2018 is at a 94. A recent game that came out that's higher than that is Elden Ring at a 96. I don't think people are going to like this as much as Elden Ring, because I don't think people like almost anything as much as they have critically liked Elden Ring. Also doing some comparison, I feel like, and you could argue this several different ways. It could be that there's more critics that have access that get ranked on Metacritic as the years go on. You could argue that maybe our criticism is more refined and granular as time goes on, and that results in lower scores. Like, there's lots of ways to slice. You could also just argue that maybe the game isn't as good, right? But I look at kind of some of these franchise pairings of like the first game, the second game, and obviously some of them are many years apart, and you can argue different reasons, whatever. Like Last of Us 1, 95 on Metacritic. Last of Us 2, 93. I feel like that second game is very clearly better than the first game, but Metacritic does not factor out that way. Horizon Zero Dawn, 89 on Metacritic, 88 for Horizon Forbidden West. I think Horizon Forbidden West is way better than Horizon Zero Dawn. Granted, I still don't put either of those at a 10, but I think just based on that, I feel like it tends, when the first one is so high, it is rare for it to be above that, at least on Metacritic. Maybe not, I guess I'd have to check maybe what happened with Portal on Metacritic. But again, that's many years ago, so I don't know how useful that is. But that is what I'm basing it on, that it will be at best the same, probably a point or two lower.
Yeah, I think what part of that too, when it comes to why some of these games score so high, they are revolutionizing a genre to some extent. I go to Elden Ring, and Elden Ring, I would argue, it really pushes the boundaries in terms of what open world games are and what they can be. I'll say the same thing about Breath of the Wild, which I know is really high on Metacritic. I'll say the same thing for God of War 2018 in terms of action games. I think that game really pushed the boundaries in terms of, oh shit, an action game can do this. This is what it can be. And I don't know if God of War Ragnarok can do that again for action games, if it is the same kind of God of War game. Maybe there's something in there that's secret that we don't know about that like is really going to change the game, but like they're not necessarily marketing it that way, and that's totally fine, because I think it's still going to be fantastic and a masterpiece and all this stuff. And nobody needs to reinvent the wheel with every single game. If any studio could do that, then like I don't know, the greatest studio of all time, right? I've not heard of a studio that's been able to actually do something like that. It's just so hard to come through with a next iteration of a game that's that good. I even look at something like Red Dead Redemption 2, which for all intents and purposes, is a technical masterpiece. You know, that game looks better than any other game that I've played in open world, and like I think it's so technically solid and does a lot of things in terms of role playing that is fantastic, but still is very divisive for a lot of people because there are things here and there in terms of following up on the original that gave people a bad taste in their mouths. I think God of War Ragnarok could do the same thing, especially if it goes to the crazy places that we think it could go. Like if it is let's kill off Kratos in the first 2 hours, oh man, you're gonna have another Last of Us Part 2 situation on your hands where fans are gonna be so split on it. And how does that reflect on Metacritic and all that?
Yeah, I really agree with that. Like in terms of where they take the narrative can really determine how people feel about it. And that's not to argue that if you don't like stories like Last of Us 2, it's inherently because of the content of the story. I definitely know critics that don't like Last of Us 2 or criticize Last of Us 2 for just the general structure of the game, that kind of weird, almost 3-part with the third part's like really small and kind of random. Like, I can't lie, that game has 3 endings and it did feel kind of weird at times in terms of that pacing. Ultimately, I still enjoyed it, but I totally see the validity of that criticism, and I think this could fall victim to that depending on what they do with both the structure and also the characters. I think the other thing, and like, it's interesting because like a challenge as critics is you always want to review the game that's there, not the game that you want it to be there. But at the same time, you're also forced to contextualize the game in relationship to everything that you know about gaming and game design, while kind of acknowledging your own personal tastes and preferences and how that game design hit for you, how that story hit for you personally, and what that makes you think of the art in general. Again, that becomes so much more challenging when you are going one game to the other, because you do have to kind of have it in conversation of what did the first game do that you think is room for growth, right? Something people bring up a lot is like the enemy variety, and we've already mentioned that, oh, well, maybe we'll see more enemy variety because people got tired of fighting all like the Valkyries, which, you know, granted you didn't necessarily need to, and like all the trolls, and maybe like some people didn't like the puzzles as much. So you already there's a conversation to be had there, while when 2018 dropped, it was like, oh, this is a refresh to God of War. And you knew that it'd have like, you know, things like the violence, the grit, the combat that you enjoyed from like the base series, but you also knew this was a reinvention, and it was like, okay, I'm curious as to what new ideas you're presenting. Here we have it in the context of those new ideas already having been presented and what we maybe liked and didn't like about those ideas. So it just gets very conflated and intense to, I think, compare the two in terms of numbers.
I think I'm with you, Janet. I think it'll probably most likely score lower on Metacritic, but I think the general conversation is that it'll be a worthy follow-up to 2018, and that people will generally like it more than 2018.
The final question is not a prediction. It is back to where we started. When are we replaying as a community with PS I Love You XOXO God of War 2018? I'm with you, Blessing. You don't want to be too close. I understand. Not to mention that, when's a good time? I feel like we didn't blow anything. Don't get me wrong. I got plenty of time here. But like right now, we're back into this crazy review season. There's a million, like right now, there's a bunch of stuff hitting that we're getting a lot of codes. We're getting a lot of things we want to be playing. So like right now is not great. And you don't want to burn out, Bless, right? So you're looking at November 9th. I would say then we skip October. Is it something we do in September?
I mean, Last of Us Part 1 comes out in September.
Great point.
But also, like, I guess
it's just too crazy.
Like second half of September, because we're gonna review that game before Last of Us comes out anyway. And so like,
I forget the date on Last of Us right now.
Say again.
What's Last of Us's date?
September 2nd. And so we would have been playing that in August anyway, and probably reviewing it by September 2nd. And when I look through the rest of the month, right, like it is Splatoon 3 for Switch, which I know me and Janet are probably gonna be playing.
Hell yeah.
Metal Hellsinger, you know, how much time are we gonna spend on that? Like I'm gonna play it, but I don't know if that's gonna be a big time sink. And then Valkyrie Elysium for PS4 and PS5, which I don't think you guys are gonna play. I'm thinking about playing it, but
good on that. Yeah.
We'll see. So maybe honestly, September could work. Or I say September.
Or
is that too close to November though? That is kind of close.
You gotta get a month to breathe.
The fall gets a little.
I guess we'll theoretically, knock on wood, get a review copy towards the end of October.
For God of War Ragnarok, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at when I look at August, right? It is Cult of the Lamb, which I think we're all kind of hyped for. Rollerdrome, which I'm hyped for. Madden NFL 23, which I'm kind of hyped for actually. This is the Madden edition.
You're gonna play an hour and a half of that tops.
Say I'll play at least like two games.
So 2 hours.
I want to do some of the Madden.
He's gonna do 3-minute quarters. He'll be done.
And we're gonna do tournaments.
45.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have fun
we
with it.
talked. We could be doing the tournaments right now. Nobody bid on it. You know what I mean?
I don't
Yo, I'm
think we
down.
can be doing the tournaments right now.
I know we can, Barrett. Well, I
Really?
guess actually, yeah, you can be with the beta thing where you can do stuff with.
Is it still going?
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
okay.
Well, I digress. Saints Row is also coming out August 23rd, which is going to take some more time. And then,
So like, what if we just just to
there's future game of the year,
shorten
so
up
I can
this? What if we just did? We're gonna do God of War 2018 re-review on September 15th. That's Thursday,
I think
September
that's
15th.
good.
Or Mike and I get back to our full series playthrough, and you guys just wait for us to get to God of War 2018, which would most likely just be October.
No,
No,
so
let's
we
see.
can't
That's
do that.
Really late. What?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah,
Mike's just gonna show him? Go, this is
Too much.
Jabroni Kratos. I don't like it.
Yeah,
You wanna play
exactly. Well, we
2018
got to play the
Ragnarok
first three,
concurrently?
Janet. That's the thing. We're gonna
Oh
play the
my
original
gosh.
trilogy and then get into 2018.
If you're not
again.
somehow figuring out how to stream off the PSP, like, what's even the point if you're not hitting up Chains of Olympus?
September is the
Mm.
best bet. Could we do the week after, Greg? The week after you
The
did 6. I
22nd?
think you said 15. So I would say the 22nd. Yeah.
Sure. The problem there, why I was pushing it up, right, is you figure theoretically, hopefully, knock on wood, a month from that, you might have code for God of War Ragnarok. I was trying to give you more time than less time.
Yeah.
But if you're fine
That's
with that, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I just want to make sure we have enough time to play through.
Okay.
That's a 30-hour game right there. And
Sure.
theoretically, we're starting it at the beginning of September.
Yeah, whenever you want to. All right, then fine. You can do it. It's happening, everybody. Thursday, the 22nd of September, your God of War re-review, patreon.com/kindafunnygames later, the next day on the 23rd.
Maybe Mike and I stream it in October.
Maybe Mike and Barrett stream in October.
Honestly, that would
But
be a great like
Wait,
transition.
September 22nd or 15th?
22nd?
22nd. Although I'm sure that'll move around based on how all this works.
Why are you sure?
Because this is kind of funny.
Yeah.
If you're so sure, what if
Hey
we
man, we
make
can't
this
make
a
we
different day?
can't predict the video game industry right now. There's a bunch of
Oh, yeah, it's
that
already
week
in here.
we got
Thank you.
Solstice coming out. We got Serial Cleaners
Ooh.
and Session Skate Sim.
That seems like a
Nobody's
lot.
playing
We
Sessions.
should move that then. There's a lot
Again,
coming out that
I
week.
thought
Valkyrie
Serial Cleaners
Elysium.
came out already.
Valkyrie Elysium is low-key
If you want to be with us the day we re-review God of War 2018, which of course is Thursday, September 22nd, you should be on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Over on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, you can watch us record the show live, just like that dude Cam is, my dog Nick 96 is, and Indie Ronan are. Of course, you get the show ad free. Of course, you get it with the post show we do each and every time. Of course, you watch Gamescast, Xcast, you name it, record live. However, most importantly for right now, you can get the shows ad free. But guess what? You're not on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. So here's a word from our sponsors. I love that sound. It's the sound of another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify gives entrepreneurs the resources once reserved for big business. So upstarts, startups, and established businesses alike can sell everywhere, synchronize online and in-person sales, and effortlessly stay informed. Scaling your business is a journey of endless possibility, and I know the Kinda Funny store at kindafunny.com/store uses Shopify to sell all our merch, including all those cool Portillo shirts you guys have been so great about supporting with. I love how Shopify has the tools and resources that make it easy for any business to succeed from down the street to around the globe. Reach customers online and across social networks with an ever-growing suite of channel integrations and apps. Go to shopify.com/kfgames, all lowercase, for a free 14-day trial and get full access to Shopify's entire suite of features. Grow your business with Shopify today. Go to shopify.com/kfgames right now. Shopify.com/kfgames. No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills due. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early with direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is more than just about getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/kfgames. That's chime.com/kfgames. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank NA, members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depends on your payer. Blessing, what happened this week in PlayStation?
Greg, let's start off talking about what do we want from Rockstar? I asked this because earlier in the week we got a report from Zach Zweisen at Kotaku, who talked about how Rockstar is shelving remakes to focus on GTA 6. Following recent rumors, Kotaku can confirm via its sources that Rockstar Games is currently focused on developing Grand Theft Auto 6 and has shelved all remakes following the poor reception of GTA the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition. Earlier this week, a tweet from Tez, an often reliable and trusted GTA insider, caught the attention of many Rockstar fans. According to the tweet, Red Dead Redemption and GTA 4 remasters were no longer, quote, on the table, possibly due to the horrible mess that was last year's GTA Trilogy remakes. While some questioned if this was true, I can confirm that Tez's tweet is accurate and lines up with what I've been told. Janet, me and you, when Greg was out doing God knows what, right, hanging out with some snakes, biting his eyes, maybe giving birth to a baby, me and you did the GTA Trilogy review on PS I Love You XOXO. Do you think this is a good move by Rockstar? Focusing not on the remix anymore, let's focus all on GTA 6.
I think so, especially because like I feel like we had fun with the remakes, but we were among the very few. And we still, that being said, we did acknowledge the many bugs and issues and the
I
reporting
think I had
on
multiple
like
meltdowns about it.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did have a hate, like you, it's funny because you didn't rage quit, you kind of just like powered down, which was like a little scarier.
I kind of rage quit, honestly.
Yeah, but
it was like a calm rage quit.
And admittedly, you know, when I was cleaning out my PlayStation, I may have uninstalled the trilogy. Not because I didn't have fun or enjoy it, but I'm just like, you know what, maybe I'll spend my time doing other stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think GTA 6 is going to be, you know, as long as like they get it off the ground working okay, is going to be just insanely like a cultural phenomenon. So it makes sense to, I think, invest more of your time in that, especially when, you know, admittedly, maybe they didn't totally care to make the GTA trilogy, the kind of remake, what I think fans would have wanted. So then it's like, okay, well, who are we doing this for? You know, if it's not really going to be that commercially successful, if it's going to hurt our reputation, maybe we were better off focusing on something else that people really want, which is GTA 6, which I also imagine is a huge developmental undertaking. So yeah, I'm fine with this.
Greg, what do you want from Rockstar?
This is exactly what I want. I want them to focus on GTA 6. I want a GTA 6. I don't need, when they were like, oh, well, you know, the report from Zach was like, you know, means no Red Dead Redemption remake, no Grand Theft Auto 4 remake. It's like, I don't care. Stop. And even today, I guess, you know, like it came in at the wire for Games Daily. They sent out an email talking about GTA Online and Red Dead Redemption Online updates or whatever, talking about an update coming for GTA Online, and then kind of talking how they weren't doing much with Red Dead from here on out or whatever. Like, again, this is what I want. I'd like them to double down on getting to whatever Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be. I'm infinitely more excited about that than any remake or anything they could add to GTA Online. So yes, please do this.
Yeah, I'm a bit mixed on it. I think this is a bit bittersweet. I'm excited that they're focusing in on GTA 6. This is what people have asked them to do for what is almost a decade. People have been asking for this next game, and Rockstar is really good at taking their damn time working on things because, you know, they want it to be technical masterpieces, right? They want to be able to go crazy with the scope of their games. They want to be able to go crazy with, like, for GTA especially, right, the soundtracks, making sure that the city is going to be something that they're able to come back to for years on end. When we're talking about the way they're going to utilize it for online and adding in expansions and adding in live content and all that stuff, like they have to get GTA 6 right, which is why they've been taking such a long time with it. But going all hands on deck and going, hey, let's just focus on this and make sure we get this out in the most polished and most amazing state we can, I think it's good. I will say I am sad about the idea of not getting remasters for GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption, because those are some excellent games as well. And GTA the Trilogy Definitive Edition was a trash fire of a remaster / remake, but I did have a fantastic time playing them as well, right? Like, returning to those games is such a good time, and there were a lot of redeemable things. Like, there may be as many redeemable things as not redeemable things about those remakes. Like, the lighting looked incredible. I thought that graphically they looked awesome a lot of the time, but then you'd get into weird things like character models looking weird, and then rain being too much, and then weird glitches that they introduced, right? Like, a lot of things they did right, a lot of things they did wrong. I would love to see them go about Red Dead Redemption and GTA 4 and just not get that shit wrong, right? Be able to stick the landing. And I would like to see them go back to their other games in general. And I wonder for them if that could be going to other studios to have them work on that stuff while Rockstar Prime is working on GTA 6. Because you look at Max Payne and Remedy is working on Max Payne Remake, And so like they're not totally, they're not totally foreign to the idea of being able to give their IP to other people to work on. I just wish they would do that for these games, because like I would like to see these games in a modern form as well. Let's talk a bit about some indies coming to PlayStation. This comes courtesy of the PlayStation blog. This morning they did the thing on Twitter where every 15 minutes they post about a new indie game coming to PlayStation. We got 7 games for you. Sea of Stars, that's coming to PS4 and PS5 in 2023. I believe that was originally slated for 2022 but got delayed. We got Shimmy,
Shimmy, Cocoa Pop, shimmy, rock.
Is it one of the Shadows?
Shim,
You and I
the one with
played
the
it,
shadows.
We played it.
Yes.
Yeah, me and Greg checked out at
how
Summer
was
Game
it?
Fest. I thought it was cool.
I didn't like it. I think it's really cool looking, and then playing it, I was like, oh, I'm not really having a good time with this.
Damn.
Yeah,
Well, I could also try it, but
I'm definitely
doesn't
like
bode well.
I'm a sucker for puzzle platformers, and so like the whole premise behind Shim is that you are playing as like this little frog creature, and you are like a shadow creature, right? You're hopping into these shadows that are on like in like the outside of a city, and you're like hopping from shadow to shadow, trying to figure out how to make your way forward. I thought it was cool. The art style is probably the dopest thing about it, but at the same time, I could also see how it would get old after a little bit. Like that's one of those games where it can only be 2 to 3 hours long. Like this cannot be a 9-hour long game, because I'll find myself putting it down by hour 4 of it. But I thought it was pretty all right. But we got that coming to PlayStation, PS5 and PS4 in 2023. Cult of the Lamb is coming to August 11th. Very exciting. Signalis is coming to PS4 on October 27th. The Tomorrow Children Phoenix Edition launches on September 6th. Cursed to Golf tees off on August 18th for PS5 and PS4. And then Inscription is coming to PS4 and PS5, which is really exciting. Hell yeah. That's one that I believe both me and Janet have played.
Yep.
Yeah, and I want to play more of this. I only got to play a few hours. I know the game kind of gets crazier from the first hours of the game, so I think when it comes to PlayStation, I might pick it back up. Guys, is this one that excites you?
Yeah, I'm worried that I won't like it, but having it like in a more accessible form, I'm all about, because I've heard good things about it. I know the story's supposed to be good. When I saw it, I was like, I'm not a card game kind of fan, and Andy was very much like, no, that's not what this is. You don't need to do that. But at that point, ship it sailed. There was a million other things to play.
You need to do it a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't.
But
say
is it like it's
hard.
not like Gwent or something, right? Like
I haven't actually played Gwent.
It's not like
but,
Hearthstone, is it?
It's a lot like Hearthstone actually.
Yeah,
but
like I liked it. I did like it. I was bad at it. That's why I didn't continue with it, because I couldn't actually like I was in the very early stage of it, and I just couldn't like. I loved the gameplay loop. I thought they did a great job explaining it. So I definitely encourage everyone to check it out if they don't. Obviously some people have to buy it, pick it up. So maybe you don't want to invest if you're not sure, but like I think it's absolutely worth trying it, even if you don't like card stuff. I just couldn't quite progress, because I guess I wasn't good enough at the game, and then I got kind of mad that I wasn't good enough, so I didn't keep playing it.
The vibe I get, and this might just be people being real bad at keeping secrets, is that it has like I don't think you checked out Doki Doki Literature Club, but like I've
downloaded it many times.
It seems like there's like a turn somewhere in there where it goes from being a card game to being probably a different genre or something. Because I know like
I don't want to spoil too much of it, but there's some turns.
Yeah, and I didn't get past the card game stuff either. But like I at least did card stuff for multiple hours. So if you don't like card games, I don't know, like I'll still check it out, because I think the card game is simple enough, but that might be enough to deter you in the earlier hours. But also in the hours that I played, it was here's 70% card game and then 30% escape room.
Okay.
Which was really cool.
I think
and I'm sure it's gonna get crazy from there.
Regardless of me being kind of more lukewarm on Inscription, it's an insanely critically acclaimed game from last year, and I think it's awesome that this is coming to PlayStation, because it's like, yeah, we need more of the hits to be available on here, and I'm glad they were able to do it too, because it definitely was a very like PC centered game with some of the things it does. So it seems like they did figure out how to translate that to a console, which is cool.
Yeah, people love Inscription. I went to the Independent Game
Polygon's
Awards.
#1 game of the year, I think, last year, right?
I went. That sounds about right. Yeah, I think a few people gave it #1, and I went to the Independent Game Awards at GDC this last year, and Inscription won a lot of awards. And every time Inscription came up, it got the loudest cheers from the audience. Like people adore that game, and so it's one that I definitely want to go back to and actually experience the full thing.
Real quick, I do have breaking news on the craziest argument we've ever been involved in. What color is the PlayStation button? I sent it to you in assets, Barrett, of course. Right now, it's at 85.2% red, 14.8% orange. But Shuhei Yoshida himself has chimed in and said it's red since the original PlayStation.
Well, damn. I can't argue against that.
You can't.
Yeah.
He's been there.
All right. I've been enlightened. I will start referring to it as red from now on. I appreciate everybody for holding my hand through this growth, through this process. And once I go to the eye doctor in a few weeks, I'm going to be like, yo,
hey, look at this Twitter exchange. Look at this Twitter exchange.
No, here's the thing. You ask the eye doctor, what color is this? And you see what the eye doctor says, do the
that'd be
reverse,
hilarious. That'd be
Why
hilarious.
not?
If he was like orange and I could be like, yo, everybody, shut the fuck up. It'd be great. Speaking of indie games, though, I got a question here from Nathan Choquette, who writes into patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Just like you can, and says, what do you all think is the best way to spotlight indies for the PlayStation ecosystem? Are the sporadic time drop events doing enough, in your opinions, for the PlayStation's indie initiative? Or would you prefer to see indie-themed state of plays or something else entirely? It's fine to think of this from a business perspective, but I prefer to know what you all, as fans, would prefer to see. Thanks, and keep rocking and rolling. Here's the thing. I'd say state of plays are already indie state of plays in my eyes.
To answer Nathan's question, right? Like, what's the best way to spotlight indie titles in the PlayStation ecosystem? What are the metrics for success? Yada, yada, yada. There's a million different ways to slice this. I don't think this is it. I don't like I wake up, I roll over, and I look at Twitter, and it's like, hey, in 15 minutes, we're going to have 7 announcements. And like, oh, okay, well, can't you just, for me, it's like promote it ahead of time. Like make it, hey, tomorrow's going to be a PlayStation Indie Day. We have 7 announcements. Here's the one page to go to get all the things. There's like grayed out question marks or whatever. Or have it be, hey, we've gone live and it's an Indie Day and here's all the information right now. I don't like the drip feed of information because I just don't, it becomes not exciting at some point, right? Because like Sea of Stars is a big deal. People are super excited for that. They love the messenger. They've loved what they've seen to this. Sad that it got delayed till next year, last week, but like take all the time you need, obviously. But then it's like Shim was a cool Day of the Devs thing from Summer Game Fest. Okay. Cult of the Lamb. All right. We already knew about that, right? It's like, Cult of the Lamb, we've talked about on our shows, we like a lot. We already knew it was coming to PlayStation. Signalis doesn't do anything for me, but whatever. Tomorrow Children's been around forever and is back again. Curse to Golf, okay, that's cool. And then Inscription, obviously huge, but it's just like, I don't know. I feel like there's better. I would rather it be one drop. I would rather it be one video. Don't even do the Nintendo Direct. I understand that takes more work than you want, but make one. This could be a 60-second video, no sweat. And it can be, and it doesn't have to be the PlayStation State of Play voice. It can be Sid Schumann. What's up, everybody? Sid Schumann from the PlayStation blog. We're excited to tell you about these 7 things. Sea of Stars made a thing, and like you can still do your blog post and put all that out. I just feel like there's a way to make this not hype where it's like going to stop the world, but in a way that I roll over and I click a video and I get all the information rather than maybe I forget about it. I walk away. I come back. I'm disappointed in the middle. Like, I don't know. This again, we're talking about this. This is doing what it wants. I always go to Poe, my most mainstream PlayStation friend, who's like, he doesn't know what any of these games are, and he never will. There's no way to sell these games to Poe. It's just got to be that like this gets the headlines and we talk about it. And it's on Games Daily and it's on the show and it's in IGN, but it's just not exciting.
There's like a lot of ways to answer this question. Obviously, I think the most beneficial thing to do, and this is not to imply that they're not already doing it, and if y'all know of any initiatives, please chime in and highlight them. But first of all, I would love to know more from the indie developer side what they feel like would be the best kind of support for getting their game out there and like what they'd like to see, and then kind of go from a developer side of things would be ideal. Just asking me as a consumer and as a critic, I would love to see, I think, like a cool like PlayStation indie vertical in terms of coverage. I mean, I definitely think there's a flaw in how, God, what is Xbox thing called? Where they like stream for like 8 hours and they're like go over everything. I don't know if you
I need Xbox?
Yeah, like I need Xbox. I think that's too far. Like it's way too long and saturated, but I think something that kind of has like that PlayStation underground energy to it could really work for indies. I would love to see more stuff on like the smaller creator side. I know a lot of small creators, both like that I follow or that I just happen to see like on my For You page on TikTok, who highlight things like wholesome games or cozy games or like narrative games. And so often those highlights come from like the Wholesome Direct or that which is like a separate kind of thing that goes on in the industry, or Game Pass. And I feel like there's not a big conversation around PlayStation being a place to play cool indie games. When I go to PlayStation.com/en/us/game/indies, right, their landing page, I feel like it's so and this sounds kind of mean, but I feel like it's so basic. Like I'm not getting deep cuts here, and I feel like you could be serving me up a couple deeper cuts. They have stuff like Moss, which I think is totally important to highlight. It's very synonymous with PlayStation. But you scroll down, and I'm like, y'all been talking about Hades for like years. Like, you can't give me something other than Hades. You're still highlighting 12 minutes, a game that came out like a good while ago. You're still highlighting Heavenly Bodies, a game that I think came out in maybe January, maybe earlier, because I know I covered that game and like that game. You know, Carry On. Like, I'm not Among Us. Like, I'm not getting. I feel like I have to really dig and search to find stuff that's cool indies to play on PlayStation at a deeper level than I would like. So I feel like any additional like cool content creation, I'd love to see like a sector of PlayStation that is specifically highlighting the indie space and maybe like indie streamers and content creators as well. Like I think about you know, the stuff that like, yeah, which obviously Greg, like, you know, Papagena, the relationship there, but like the stuff Papagena does where I see them work with so many small streamers to highlight, and they like have these little like, oh, quick early access stuff or quick like demo things. And I think that's so cool. It ends up getting more stuff on my radar. And obviously like there are different kinds of companies, right? Like PlayStation isn't inherently just running their PR in the way that like Papagena does when they have a totally different market as well. But I would love to see a little bit more, I guess, like visible TLC to it. This is not to say that PlayStation does not care about indies or that they're not trying to highlight indies, but I want to.
There's so many moving pieces.
I want more intimate connection on indies.
There's so many moving pieces to this. I'm not one to sit there and be like, "Why don't they just make a video?" But like, I understand we think of video because we're a video company. Like, I'm not. That's why the question's complicated to answer, right? To get back to Nathan's question, like, is this the best way to spotlight it? I don't think so, but it's not a bad way. It's getting the job done. People are talking about it, but it is that thing where right now we should have had whatever if they had done a minute-long video about this, a minute and a half long video, it should have been just looping behind us while we talked about this. Rather than, you know, because otherwise it's just a collection of things. It doesn't feel unified. It feels like, as somebody who, it reminds me of how we would do things at IGN, and I'm talking like 2007 IGN for announcements of like, oh, I got to go through an HTML code this page with the hyperlinks to get to the thing. But even then, it would be most of the time that I would be putting all those links live at the same time, so that it felt like an interconnected thing. Where this does just feel like, here's some shit that's happening, and then I go to GameSpot or I go to IGN, and like, there's here's everything you missed in the thing, but then there's also the Inscription release date announcement, because they think Inscription's the big news.
Yeah, that's
and then the rest of the shit's just shit that happened.
Yeah. I think too, though, the idea of having it as like an indie state of play, unfortunately, like a lot of people don't like indies or care about indies as much as maybe some of us do, like here and that listen to the show. So I do think the risk of doing like indie states of play is that like just no one watches them.
Of course.
But maybe
that's why it made don't go that far, right?
Yeah. So like
I think it goes better. Like Nintendo has the Nintendo World stuff, and I think that does fine enough for them. And like that's not perfect either. And I don't know if there is a perfect scenario here, but I think for me the thing that this suffers with is PlayStation's kind of reluctance to want to do stuff that is personality driven, right? Like I look at this and they're just tweets or they're just PlayStation blog posts, and I don't really connect personalities to them. And I know they do the thing where they have game directors or they have the actual person working on the game type up the PlayStation blog, but I think that's exciting for us, but not for the wide audience. Like PlayStation blog posts don't have I don't think the PlayStation blog has as much reach as they think it does. Like it reaches us, right? And it reaches probably a portion of our audience, but like beyond the hardcore PlayStation audience, beyond how far does a PlayStation blog post go? How far does just a tweet go for really marketing these games? I do think that a video, if it's a minute long, if it's 10 minutes long of, hey, here is either Sid Schumann or we hire in a personality to host this thing. And it is like, for me, the best indie showcase I want to say that I've seen in the last year was the Annapurna showcase that happened a year ago, where it was, here's a handful of different games that we're working on, and each segment for each different game kind of has its own tone and personality to it, where you get to know the developers for a second, and then they hype you up about their game. There are games that weren't even announced that I'm excited for from that last Annapurna thing, because they treated the developers with such personality and such, hey, like we worked on this thing and like we're really excited for this game that we're working on because it's a skateboarding romance game, and by the time they finish talking about it, I'm all in. I think being able to do something along those lines and really give each game its moment to shine could do you well, because you know, like there is a handful of indies that PlayStation likes to support and go hard with, right? They did that for Sifu. They're doing that for Stray. They're doing that for Little Devil Inside. They want to have an identity and some connective tissue between these are what we view as PlayStation indies. I just don't think they're doing it in a clean enough way that is really allowing them to totally own that message. Like even Chicory last year, I didn't get excited for Chicory until I saw other people playing Chicory. And then I was like, oh shit, this is a PlayStation indie worth paying attention to. But PlayStation didn't sell me on that. I think it might have been Janet or somebody who sold me on that.
Yeah, and I was sold by somebody else who wasn't PlayStation.
Yeah,
as well.
so I would love to see them take a little bit more ownership and you know put in a little bit more personality into it to make people care more. To round out PlayStation updates for the week, Forspoken has been delayed. This comes from a tweet they put out this morning that reads, quote, as a result of ongoing discussions with key partners, we've made the strategic decision to move the launch date of Forspoken to January 24th, 2023. All game elements are now complete, and development is in its final stages of polish. Quote, we would like to thank you for your continued support and patience on this journey. Your excitement for the game inspires us every day, and we cannot wait to share more about Forspoken with you this summer. End quote. That then begs the question: what does this do for PlayStation's fall? I turn to the Blessing Super Fun Game release calendar, where I have a list of PlayStation games coming out this fall because I had to do it, Greg. I had to do it.
I appreciate it.
As far as
Can we
exclusive,
get a physical print of this calendar once the year's done of what actually came out?
I think Greg has a physical print already.
I haven't done it
I
up
want
yet.
this,
I
like,
can print it right
fully
now.
Professionally done.
I got you.
You're saying my printer isn't professional? It's a brother printer. I'll have you know. All right, Janet.
That's true.
Those
It's one
are
of the
fancy
best printers
printers
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to Blessings thing.
KindaFunny.com/brother.
Wait, I forget. Didn't you put it up somewhere so it's not like going to be a
CVS
receipt?
He started posting more
yeah.
now.
I don't have it as my pin tweet anymore. I have it bookmarked. I can send it to you.
Yeah,
Like
you're gonna
for
send it
people
to me.
listening, if you want to say Blessing Super Fun Game release calendar, you got to bookmark it nowadays.
All right, I got it. Back on my bullshit. Here we go. By unpopular demand, it's this. Looks
The
okay.
latest
Here you go.
one should
June
be like a hot
16th.
patch.
June 16th.
Is that the hot patch?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that'll be the one.
Jan, I'm gonna print you one right now.
Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. But to go through the list, right? For PlayStation exclusives, we got this fall. September 2nd, we got Last of Us Part 1. September 29th, we got Valkyrie Elysium. November 9th, we got God of War Ragnarok for PS5 and PS4. Sometime this fall, actually on August 12th, we got Marvel Spider-Man PC, and then Miles Morales sometime this fall. And then maybe Little Devil Inside, if that actually hits in 2022.
Maybe this will happen.
Maybe. That doesn't have a date yet, which concerns me. But then as far as not exclusives, we got Saints Row, that's coming August 23rd. Soul Hackers 2, August 26th. Soul Hackers 2. Overwatch 2 coming October 4th, and that's the early access. Marvel's Midnight Suns, that's October 7th. Plague Tale Requiem, Gotham Knights, that is October 25th. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Resident Evil Village, the Winter's expansion, Callisto Protocol, December 2nd, and then Sonic Frontiers without a date. And then I have here maybe Crisis Core, because they just said this winter. They didn't really give a hardcore window.
I love a hardcore window.
I do love a hardcore window, but I would say this fall pretty stacked. I like how this fall is looking.
We're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
You know, do we all want Forspoken? Who knows? Nobody knows. Like, well, you see it, you're like, maybe I'd like it, maybe not. You know, the previews, maybe they're not that good, but you know, it'll be one of those things. Will we like it? Will we not like it? Who knows? But we'll be all right without it. Callisto Protocol. Come on.
Did PlayStation tell Square to delay Forspoken?
Dude, what a terrible wording on the Square's part about this, right? Where they're just like, you know, due to conversations with our key partner, and then the next day, like, Ragnarok's coming, or whatever, the same day. Yeah, the same day Ragnarok's coming.
Like, around the same time, honestly.
It's like a really shitty way to word this and not make it seem. I don't think it's that PlayStation said not to. I think maybe in a conversation they found out that God of War Ragnarok was coming November 9th. They're like, oh, okay. But then again, it's like, they got to shake through everything they have, right? I know Janet and Jared had a long conversation about Crisis Core. When is that coming this year? This year, in quotes, this winter, of course. I'm with Barrett that I think it'll be spring, March, whatever of next year. It'll be. I don't think it. Yeah, it's definitely related to it, and it's a weird way to say it.
Yeah, because when you say key partners, it's like, who's your key partner? Like, PlayStation is the main partner we know of. Oh, hell yeah, you got partners.
Jan, I'm getting in the mail for you right now.
Thank you.
Hell yeah, that is a commitment to the bit that I very much appreciate.
You saw the stamps.
But yeah, like I'm
terrible at mailing things. I still have a thing to mail a blessing over here. I'll get it one day.
Do you? What is it?
Yeah, I can't tell you that.
It's a surprise.
Oh no, that scares me.
You don't like surprises?
In the mail? From Greg Miller? No.
Fair.
From Greg Miller, no. But yeah, like looking at the release calendar, right? Like Valkyrie Elysium, I know that's not a big release for Square, but that is still a big or that's still a JRPG, like a full JRPG release, and that's coming in September as well. Like I think both from the Square side and from the PlayStation first party side, exclusive side, they have things pretty covered. Like I think it's a good idea to get Forspoken out of there and hopefully have it not compete as hard, even though
I mean, a new IP, right? That's so tough. That's so tough to launch. And so I do like, I know everything keeps getting pushed to next year or whatever, but January 24th is early. And again, we've talked about it a million times, whether they're talking about the original Dying Light or a bunch of Dying Light 2. Like you come out in that, once you cross December 31st, we're all still playing the shit we need to do for Game of the Year. January 1st, all you do is think about what's coming next. It's done.
Yeah.
2022 is done. I need 2023 games.
I will say that puts it up against Dead Space Remake. And then I know there's stuff coming in spring. I don't have, sadly, Blessed Super Fun Game release calendar doesn't cover 2023 at least yet. I'll have that later. But I know spring is starting to get more and more stacked as we get closer to it. So I'm excited to keep an eye to see how Forspoken fares against whatever else pops up, maybe in early February, late February, around that time. But for now, we'll have to wait and see.
See, the thing about Dead Space Remake, of course, is that we're all going to be blown away by Callisto Protocol. And so we're not even going to have to compete with that. Don't worry about that.
You think so? You're excited for Dead Space Remake, right?
Of course.
Okay.
But I'm more excited for Callisto.
Oh, yeah, of course. Let's hop into PlayStation picks. Of course, that's where we talk about what's coming out this week, and we talk about what we've been playing this week. Regarding the drop, we got Arcadegeddon. That's coming to PS5 and PS4 on Tuesday, July 5th.
You're excited about this?
I played some of it. I can talk about it right now, actually, as I go through this, right? We also got Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series. That's PS5, PS4, Friday, July 8th. And then Madison comes out for PS5 and PS4 on Friday, July 8th. Madison is a first-person psychological horror game that delivers an immersive and terrifying experience. With the help of an instant camera, connect the human world with the beyond. Take pictures and develop them by yourself. Solve puzzles, explore your surroundings, and, most importantly, survive. I wanted to include the description video of this game because this game looks cool for people who like the first person survival horror type experiences. This looks like a really interesting one. But to go back for a second to Arcadegeddon, me and Janet actually played a bit of Arcadegeddon earlier in the week, and I played a little bit during the review period. Not as much as I'd like to, but it seems like honestly not a crazy amount has changed since I played in early access. And if you remember, when they put it out in early access last year, I played some of it, went, oh, this is a really cool concept for a game. I want to see them improve on it and really iterate on it because I could see this having promise. Now picking it up with the full final release being out, I'm still having fun with it, but I think the thing that right now is holding Arcadegeddon back for me is the aesthetic and personality of the game. It is very much an arcadey ass, hey, like every level is just a random ass video game, Unreal Engine template of a level of like, here's the forest level, here's the, digital city, here's this, here's that. And like the enemy design feels so plain also, like in that same note. What I do like is the gameplay and the gameplay loop, which is basically a Risk of Rain style or even like a Returnal style. Here's a third person action shooter with roguelite elements. In Arcadegeddon, it is co-op, and there is this focus on how far can you get with your co-op partner. And so you have the options to like raise up difficulty to get more currency as you go, or pick up different loot as guns, and like the guns are really wacky, kind of like I compared it to Ratchet and Clank when I was playing it with Janet. And I had a pretty decent time playing as we were going through the other day, but I'm having a tough time wanting to stick with it. The carrot on the stick hasn't been as strong for me. I don't know how you feel about it, Janet.
Yeah, pretty similar. Like it's funny because I was talking about this in context of Knockout City, which are two very different games, and as well as like Roller Champions. I think it's like it is solidly designed, and it's not quite as interesting as either of those games, but I find it easier to like play through because it's a pretty chill experience. Like you're just out there with your group of people or by yourself, and you're just blasting through enemies, and you're just trying to see as far as you can get. I feel like it's a very simple, straightforward formula with some interesting weapons. But it reminds me kind of like the experience that I personally had with a little bit of time where I played Back 4 Blood, where it's like, yeah, there's some interesting things here, but I'm not that interested in them. But it's like a chill time to like play with friends. But obviously it's not nearly as like grotesquely violent as Back 4 Blood is. But it reminded me a lot of that vibe where I'm like, I don't think this is bad. I don't like hate it or anything, but I probably won't play too much more of it. And I don't think it like begs to be played at this point. Like having played with Blast, and I'll probably play a little bit more this week, I kind of told Isaiah, like, if you want to play with this with me, you can, but I don't I'm not sold that it's like super exciting to check out. That being said, it is on PS Plus, and I did redeem it and downloaded it and played it. So there you go. That's my game. My PS Plus pick of the month is Arcadegeddon because it's the only game that I hadn't played yet.
Yeah, I think my thing is too is the reason why I flocked to this game is that I think the fundamentals and like the concept is so good in terms of what it is as this co-op like Fortnite-ish kind of art style meets like a Roller Champions or a Knockout City kind of thing. You know, good gameplay loop in terms of it being a roguelite and you having those moments of PvP, right? Like halfway as you're playing through the levels, the stages in the game, you get to the halfway point, which is like a break area where you can buy guns, hang out, do whatever, and they have like a corner you can go to activate a PvP mode, which are like these different mini games they can go to, right? It could be kill more enemies than your opponent, or King of the Hill, like that type of stuff. And whoever wins gets really good loot out of it, which I think is such a great concept. And so much of this game is that. So much of this game is, oh shit, this is fun, but I also don't know if this is the most excellent version of it. Like the most excellent version of this game, I would be super into. Like that would be my favorite game of the year, maybe. But for me, this game just doesn't take it to the levels that I need it to be something that is worthwhile for me to come back to continually and have fun with. I think maybe it could get, if this game lasts for a few years and really hits it with the updates and really goes hard, I think it could get there. And I think PS Plus is going to be great for it, for people that do hop into it and go, oh, this is actually pretty fun, and then might stick with it for the month or for a few weeks. But man, like I wish it was doing a little bit more to get me in.
The soundtrack goes hard though. Also,
soundtrack does go hard. Soundtrack does.
Also,
go
there
hard.
was a gun that Blessing got where when you shot it, a blade came out and it would slice enemies in half.
Wow.
Yeah. There's another gun that is basically a like air pump like kind of gun where you blow up your enemy. You literally blow up your enemies and they pop. They have a lot of cool shit like that.
What a way to go.
That I really did. Yeah, what a way to go. And so like honestly, if you're somebody who is passively interested in Arcadegeddon, I would say check it out. Like it's free on PS Plus. It is risk-free. I think there's enough fun to be had for maybe a little bit of time, and if you can get your friends into it, that actually might be a good time. But yeah, it's not one that's necessarily blown me away. But Greg, I shift all focus to you. What did you pick to play on PlayStation this week?
This week, I picked a little game called Kid Amnesia, ladies and gentlemen.
No way.
I fucking did it, Janet.
Wow.
I turned on your little no trophy experience and I walked around a bunch of hallways of flashing lights. I'm on the verge of having a seizure left and right. I got weird stick figure men coming out of walls, walking by me, doing all this stuff. It's playing music. I'm going to red rooms. I'm going downstairs. I got these crazy ass drawings everywhere. Everybody stop doing drugs. All right? Stop doing drugs.
No, keep doing drugs because it's great.
This is the kind of art we don't need. All right, just no point. I'm wandering around, and then I'm scanning the little UPC codes to bring up the website.
Oh, yeah.
The website's just trying to sell me merchandise.
Just merch.
And then it's like, all right, well, here's like it looks like a museum map, and I'm like, that game we did from Dreams that we gave our award to, 20 times the game this is. 20 times the game this is.
Rock and roll is dead, is what you're saying.
Rock and roll is dead.
Goddamn.
It died with the monkeys.
Wow, what monkeys?
The monkeys. The band, the monkeys.
Fuck
Hey,
you.
we're the
Bless,
monkeys.
I need you to not talk about music anymore, ever.
People
I'm
say
sorry, I
we
don't know
love
your
you
rock and
around.
roll. All right, I listen
But
to
you also
real music.
don't know.
It's called hip hop.
God, no.
I think it's
Let
pretty
me tell you about
competitive with the
Travis
Dreams
Scott.
creation. Personally,
Hey, but here's what I'll say.
Hey, Janet, do you remember when Greg didn't know who Cactus Jack was?
I did. Bang, bang. McFoley. Bam, bam, bam.
Oh, we're talking about Travis Scott. Travis Scott, all right.
The McDonald's kid. Yeah, I know. He worked at a McDonald's or something. He made a burger with barbecue sauce somewhere. Blessing, here's what I'll say. It's going to go your way, though, right? What do you think of Daft Punk?
They're fine. They just don't have that many hits.
Okay, great. So we're on the same page, and that's why I back
Yeah.
Blessing on music. He's got good music taste. I can't
Appreciate
fault him.
I don't back you on anything.
He heard
Greg, after
he
you
heard
said
Daft
In-N-Out
Punk over there with
fries
a
are your favorite
56K modem
fries.
and thought that was music. No, he didn't know. He knows that was bad. music.
Janet, I need you to leave us. Like we don't deserve you, and I'm gonna put in a formal request
Barrett,
to Tim to cancel.
name me every single Daft Punk #1 hit right now. You can Google it.
Yeah, you can hear him typing. He's got to go. He's googling who Daft Punk is.
I want #1 hits
Thank
by
you
Daft
for
Punk.
playing Kid Amnesiac. I'm
No
glad
problem.
that
I
you
didn't.
played it.
For the record, I didn't really hate it. I'm kind of doing it. I mean, I wasn't into it. Like I played it probably like 25 minutes. It's like, all right, I'm done with this. But like, I always like an experience, and it's very upfront. Of course, it's like, hey, this isn't a game. I'm like, all right. But what I've also been playing for real to give you a gaming recommendation for a video game is Dismantle. I've been playing Dismantle.
Oh.
Now, full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, as you do know, I have been swayed to the dark side, and I have been using the PlayStation Vita 2, aka the Steam Deck. So I did play Dismantle on the Steam
Devil's
Deck.
handheld.
I did play Dismantle on the Steam Deck, but it is on PlayStation. It's $20 there, and I highly recommend it. This is a recommendation from the one, the only, my Italian meatball, Brian Altano at IGN.com, who I think saw me being like, man, I'm looking for this, and I don't know, blah, blah. And he hit me up. He's like, hey, when you get the Steam Deck, get Dismantle. I think it'll really click for you. I'm killing it right now. And I looked at it, and this trailer makes it look like a survival game because there is crafting, there is, blah, blah, but it's way more an action RPG where you die and you respawn and you can go back and get your stuff off them, but you're collecting things, you're unlocking new recipes, but you're leveling up, you're, upgrading your backpack, upgrading your crowbar so you can break more stuff. The catchphrase they had on their Steam page, right, is like 99% of the world is destructible. So you're breaking things down to get the resources to build things out. You have a quest log, you're going through, you're fighting zombies. It's very Last of Us, like these guys with clicker like heads or whatever. Almost an isometric view. It's not, you can spin the camera, but that's the look of it or whatever. I'm really, really enjoying it. And it's one of those where I was deep enough on Steam Deck where I was like, shit, man, I would play this for trophies, but I don't want to restart. And I'm looking at a couple flights in the next few weeks, and I'm like, this will be a great playing game for that, of just going through and not mindlessly doing anything, but having that thing of, you know what, today I just want to craft a flashlight, or today I just want to work for this upgrade. I want to, get the blood bag to get point or plus 5 HP or whatever. I'm just going to go and farm those mats before I go to the next area to do the next thing. And I'm really enjoying it, so I highly recommend it.
Hell yeah.
Around the world, one more time. Harder, better, faster,
Number one hits. Number one hits.
No, you were just asking me for their hit songs.
No, I said, what are their number one hits?
You added that on top of asking the original question, as you usually do, Bless.
No, I said they had no hits, and I said, what are the number one hits?
You said they had no hits, as if they don't ever have any singles that charted.
I said they had few hits. I said they had few hits. I don't think I said they had no hits.
This is Blessing's strategy.
Rewind the tape. Rewind the tape. Did I say no?
He asks you, and then he gaslights you. I understand the game.
I know. Rewind the tape. People listening to the podcast know that I'm right.
You sound out of pocket.
Rewind the podcast. I said they have few hits. Also, open up what I dropped in assets. It's a link to the Daft Punk Billboard page.
Okay.
It shows that they've had one hit that has shown up on the Billboard charts. Peak position 29. That is Get Lucky with Daft Punk.
That's not their only
zero number one hits.
That's not their only tracking single though.
I mean, according to Billboard, it is.
All right, well, I've got at least in top 100 for US, around the world. One more time. Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger didn't chart in US, but that is another very big song from them. It came back in 2007. And then, Get Lucky.
And then it ends there.
Well, they also don't make music anymore.
That's always my argument has never been no hits. My argument has been few hits. Few.
But you're also trying to undersell them as like a very important producers in the industry.
I've never done that.
That's what you did the first time you fucking talked about them on Game City.
Get out of here, dude. Listen, I fought back because everybody was like, how do you not know Around the World? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Not everybody knows every Daft Punk song. Anyway.
It was just surprising that you didn't know it. That's all.
It's just
it's because Blessy only knows good music, and I
only know good music. I'm not
Janet, going to talk to you guys about music.
What did you pick to play on PlayStation this week?
Let's focus on video games, which is still an antagonistic conversation a lot of times, but I feel like you guys know what you're talking about, so I'm not mad when you're antagonistic. Let's stick in our lanes. So I do want to very quickly shout out, I'm also going to cheat. I do want to shout out that I finally finished House of Ashes, Dark Pictures Anthology, and I really liked it.
Yes, Janet.
This is probably, to me, their best work so far. I have not played The Quarry.
Yes, Janet.
And I will put the asterisk that I'm not an Until Dawn stan, so I know if you're really even better than Until Dawn, it don't take a lot for me to think something's better than Until Dawn. I didn't like Until Dawn. I thought it was too campy. I know people were like, it's supposed to be campy. I thought it was too much. I thought it was weird that one woman's like, well, you know what? We're just going to have sex in this cabin. Then the totem thing was kind of like a weird choice too. Don't know how I feel about that. Wasn't into the game. Not an Until Dawn fan, but I loved House of Ashes. I thought they did a great job with the character development. They definitely took a risk with sort of this the real monster is war. Like that could have been very cheesy or heavy-handed, but I thought they did a good job kind of exploring, war, but also like the sort of supernatural situation they get thrown into.
Sure.
There's some good drama there. I loved Ashley Tisdale the whole way through. And then there are definitely things that I am annoyed at with the game. Like I have notes for the game, but generally, like I got to the final third, I finished it. I thought they really landed the ending super well. I thought they wrapped up the questions I had left with what happened with this character or whatever, because they did a lot of the are they dead, are they not dead situation.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool. And then something that very few games do, maybe they've always done this, I don't remember. I like that at least, and I think it's any ending, but they have a cutscene that goes as the credits go. Every game needs to do that because I'll be watching them credits just for no reason, because just for the culture, but I have nothing
There's
to look at, so
nothing
I
more
don't-
heartbreaking than a bad credits when you get to the end of it and it's just like, oh, and then you can't
Yeah.
skip it and there's nothing happening. And I don't even mean like just, white text on a black background. Not even, you have a killer song. Have some, concept art in there. Have, Bug Snacks, right? Had like the photos of like, here's what happened to everybody after the fact. I'm like, all right, this is neat.
Yeah, some cute stuff. So yeah, I really like the game, and it's one that I finally feel like I can recommend it with almost no asterisk. Like the only asterisk I have is I do think one of the characters was a little bit very like too evil, like that one dude who like was sort of racist. Like he was like very like far gone,
yeah.
and then
But
honestly,
you don't have to
change
play
his
him that way,
character.
Janet.
You
If
don't.
you're not a racist, then he won't be a racist.
Wait, are
It
you talking
takes
about
a
the
long time to
You're talking
make
about the
that choice.
non-playable guy, right?
No, I don't remember. If
No,
it's
she's
playable
talking about
or
the
not.
guy in the 9/11 hat whose name
Military
escapes me
dude
right
who's
Oh,
now.
I
Yeah,
like
no,
that
I
guy.
haven't.
Yeah, he had a redemption arc in mind, but Janet
does-
wanted to be a
he
bad guy.
He had a redemption arc in mind too, but I also thought that was like a little bit. It was hard to do that and organically because you get the choice of like at a certain point, it's like, well, you can keep being a jerk or you can be nice. And I chose to be nice, but then it kind of felt like too immediate of a shift. Again, it's not the worst thing in the world, but that's the only part where I feel like they like
Jason.
lightly fumbled the bag. But yeah, generally I really liked the game. It was exciting.
Hell yeah.
I was into it. So go play House of Ashes. Like I have other things nice to say about the other games as well, but like I think this one was the standout to me. And I was really impressed because I thought, I'm like, I don't know, I kind of know what these games are like. And then I'm like, they really kind of stepped it up. So I
Yeah.
thought that was cool. And then
The final hours of House of Ashes where you get kind of the reveal of like, oh, this is all this cool shit going on. I fucking
Yep.
loved. Like there's
Me
a
too.
visual
Me
turn
too.
in that game where I
Yeah.
was like, oh, let's go. This is really cool. And I also love that today they double down on Devil in Me. The next
Devil in Me.
The Devil in Me,
Yes.
the next Dark Pictures game is coming out this autumn, which
Trailer
I add
looks
that to
great.
the list.
Trailer
I
looks great.
cannot wait for that game. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited to play that one as well. So I wanted to finish this one before doing the Quarry, even though they're not related, because the Quarry is not a Dark Pictures anthology game. It is just a super massive game. But it's also like in the way that all those Life is Strange games that weren't Life is Strange games are definitely still kind of Life is Strange. Anyway, where it's like, oh, it's different, but it's kind of the same, which is weird. But anyway, and then I played Uncharted 4 because yesterday was my big gaming day with my brother. I was like, when do you have time? I am free after, I don't know, 3 or something. And I'm like, I'm down to play until one of us is too physically exhausted to stop playing. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hit that wall early and then I kept going because I wanted to get further. We did not beat the game yet, but we're now on chapter 19. We played for 5 hours of Uncharted 4 and I continued my Twitter thread of my explorations and my adventures. I don't know how much more I should say because I also don't want to spoil for anyone who hasn't played, even though the game is old as hell. But it's been fun. It's been fun.
It's been 6
Dramas
years. I
have
think
happened.
you can talk about. So.
Okay. Well, this is my like little disclaimer. So like I finally got to like the jank with my brother, which like, brother been trash since the jump, both of them, fuck both of them, honestly. But I'm like, Sam is a piece of shit. This shit's ass. I'm like, I definitely, and then, we kind of started to like speculate, what do we think is happening? I'm like, I definitely think he's working with Rafe. This shit's sketchy as fuck. He probably just did this to trick his brother to do it because he's like obsessed with like, isn't this adventure good? Isn't this the coolest shit you ever did? I'm like, this is a washed man trying to tear me down with him. And I'm falling for it because I'm whack too, And then it was like the reveal happened. I was eating it up. I was like, yes, the drama. Here we go. I also like that they gave you that little stick that you can stick in the porous surfaces to like climb. Not the most revolutionary thing in the world, but I really like it. I think it just gives the climbing a little bit more of an organic feel. So I was psyched to have that little spike thing to climb with.
Not Rockstar, sorry. Naughty Dog loves to really make like these really complicated, like mechanical, like technical achievements with basic ass shit. Yeah, because the anchor in Uncharted 4 reminds me of the rope in Last of Us Part 2, and then like you read developers talk about it, and they're like, "No, do you understand how hard rope is to make in a video game?" And like the anchor is another one of those ones where it becomes like a core mechanic later on in Uncharted 4, and I'm sure for them that took them a while to figure out.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see it in there because I really don't, I didn't have any like experiences prior, so I was like, oh, this is a really cool little addition. Again, it doesn't totally reinvent how I was playing, but it just feels like it gives me a little bit more to work with. It's fun. And it's an extra new thing to do. I definitely hit a few walls of combat that sent me over the edge, but I'm doing okay now. Because like I just got so pressed at a certain point because like I can land some sick shots, and it's not a complicated game, right? I can land some really good shots. I have some good clips of me doing some crazy shit. I'm like, yeah, fucking pro gamer hours, let's go. And then I like end up in this one area where they're like, what if there's like no cover and there's no space and there's 8 people and they're the most armored men you've ever seen? And I'm like, man, fuck this game. Like I was like, this gunplay is not good enough to warrant this many waves. And of course I can turn it down, but I'm like, I don't want to turn it down. So anyway, and then that was that. But there has been some really dope story stuff. I love the stuff when they're kids. I think that's some of my favorite parts of the series in general. I think it's so heartfelt while still feeling in the universe. Yeah, so it's been fun. I desperately want Elena to stand the fuck up and stop, like that scene where Nathan's like, you saved me again, and she's like, what? I almost didn't. I was like, don't, bitch, let this man, death do us part, let this man bleed out on these
Oh my
rocks. I don't give a
God.
fuck.
Janet!
And I know that's gonna upset people, but that is my truth. So it's rough seeing this girl take this L over and over again, but we all know someone who she ain't gonna leave him, and you just gotta, like, you like her, you fuck with her, but it's like, man, I just
Gotta let her make her own
hope he
choices.
gets
Gotta
his
let her make
shit
her own
together.
choices.
So
I
you want
just
to see
I just
women
hope
take
she gets
W's?
together.
Play some Lost Legacy. It'll be a
I'm
great
doing
taste
the next.
for
So it's gonna be, we're gonna do Uncharted 4. We're gonna finally watch the Uncharted movie. My brother's like, yeah, Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland. Where could it go wrong? Anyway, we're gonna do that, and then we'll probably do Lost Legacy at some point. But we have a couple other games to knock out. But yeah, those were our adventures. It's been fun. I love driving that fucking Jeep around. It reminds me of I had a remote control car as a kid that I had that was just like that Jeep, because it was like a little Jeep that you could drive around, and it reminds me of that. So yeah, I think the game's at its height when it does story and adventure, which has weaved really nicely throughout in the constant conversation. And I think it is combat the best when it ties together really nice set pieces and epic moments for the player. I think it's at its weakest when it's just a bunch of guys that got to take out an area. So yeah.
Agreed, actually.
Fair enough.
I'm playing.
I'm gonna finish it this Friday. I'm finishing it this Friday also. Friday, I'm waking up at 6 a.m.
We've heard the story.
I did my part. I played Kid Amnesia.
Look, me and my brother are waking up. We're starting at 6 a.m. I have until my next thing is at 12 on Friday. So we have 6 hours. It's 2 hours left if you're good. Probably 4 hours left because we're us. And I have like a 6-hour window for like the buffering time. I'll probably get some donuts or something for us in the morning. But yeah.
I believe in you. There's one very long combat encounter at the very, very end before you get into like very simple stuff at the very end. But just, it's gonna be rough. Just, you can push through it though.
Thank you.
I'm just saying.
I appreciate you chiming on the thread, Barrett, too. I've been enjoying reading your takes.
Thank
So
you.
just to close this out and pivot it over to Blessing here for his Cuphead review, I'll just end it on this, Janet. All right. Keep in mind, my dog died in April, and I've been able to finish Kid Amnesia, and you've had nothing in your life, and you
Really good
haven't
point.
been able to finish Uncharted.
Really good
Blessing,
point.
your time.
Greg also had a child. I've been playing Cuphead. Cuphead is really cool. It's a really dope game.
Breaking news!
I started playing it
Let him have the floor.
back when it first dropped. I started playing Cuphead, and I got like halfway through. I got to the boss. I told the story a million times. I feel like on content. The boss that's like the 3-headed dragon beat my ass relentlessly to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just not going to beat this game. And I didn't go back to Cuphead. And over the years, every now and then I'll go back. I'll like pick Cuphead up and be like, let me try out this boss one or two times. It'll beat my ass. I put it down. With the release of Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, I was like, you know what, man? I'm kind of craving it. Now's the time. Let me go back. Let me pick up Cuphead. Let me see if I can get past this 3-headed dragon. And it only took me 4 tries to get past that goddamn dragon. I beat that dragon's ass. All right, it didn't know its own name by the time I was done with it. That dragon's fucking dead as hell. Beat the dragon. Then I've gone on to beat quite a few bosses after that as well. I'm in the last aisle. I'm probably maybe halfway through the last aisle in Cuphead, and it's been such a good reminder of goddamn, this game is such a visual masterpiece. Like this game, I don't think this game could look any better visually if it tried.
Gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. The art style is damn near perfect. They really captured that era of cartoon flawlessly, and I can't believe what they were able to achieve graphically. But goddamn, that game is hard as hell. Like I stand by. I think Cuphead still remains as the hardest video game I think I've ever experienced. At least for me. I know difficulty speaks to different people in different ways. Where some people would say Souls games are like the hardest, or some people would say whatever else is the hardest. For me, I can get through an Elden Ring fine. I can get through a Bloodborne or a Souls game fine for the most part. Cuphead, I've had moments in the last week as I've been playing where I'm like, do I put this down? Because I am getting so frustrated and so heated and so like mad at the game. But at the same time, I'm having such a fun time with it that I find myself continuing on with it, and then having that moment when I hear the announcer say knockout, and I'm like, let's fucking go. Like every single time I beat a boss, I'm like, let's fucking go. I had that moment yesterday where I was on my 15th try with the boss where I couldn't get past the first phase. And on the 15th try, get past the first phase, I am getting into the second phase. I'm like, oh man, all right, cool. I'm freestyling this shit, right? Because Cuphead is so much about learning and so much about that muscle memory of figuring out what the faces are. I am freestyling this shit, and I find myself making my way toward the very end, and I beat that boss. My first time experiencing that last phase, and it is such a great feeling for me in a video game when I'm able to make that happen. I think Cuphead really captures that feeling well. And so yeah, I've been having such a blast with it. I want to continue through. The only thing that's stopping me is that I keep getting codes are starting to roll in for games that are upcoming, and I'm like, oh man, okay, I should play this thing, I should play this other thing, and I'm starting to have that, but at the same time, I do want to focus in. And so we'll see how far I get with it. I do also want to check out the DLC because I was watching Barrett and Tim and them play the DLC the other day, and the DLC looks even more wild than the base game, and so I do want to check it out at some point. But yeah, man, it's been such a blast returning to Cuphead, and that's been my pick this week.
A great pick for a great person. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of PS I Love You XOXO. Remember, it's not over. You can go to patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames, where we're about to do a post show and answer a question from Crooks. If you want to come watch that, patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames. Of course, over there, you can get the show ad free. You can write it to be part of the show. You can be watching live with the other trogs right now. However, if you have no bucks tossed our way, it's no big deal. Of course, you can get every episode of PS I Love You XOXO live, or not live, youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every week on Friday. I'm trying to stall my words just a second. Remember, of course, God of War, we're replaying it and we'll be talking about it come hell or high water, September 22nd, 2022, to get ready for Ragnarok. Of course, you can help us out. Share this video with your friends. If they like God of War Ragnarok, let us know your predictions in the comments below. We got a post show to do. But until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.